on who's more responsible for political violence, Democrats or Republicans. And today, the structure of this conversation is going to be, we'll give everyone a chance to introduce themselves, then we'll do 2-minute openers, and then we'll have a free-form discussion. Hopefully, I can stay out of the conversation as much as possible. I only have 2 rules.
Somebody asked
1,
if I
try to
debate
stick to the
straight
subject,
men.
and 2, try not
Can't
to
get mad at me
interrupt
that
each
the
other
left is
as
full of
much as
gays.
possible.
Well, you get mad at me
All
for
right,
that
Mr.
for?
Soypill, would
Not
you
my
like to
fault.
shout yourself out?
Yeah, what's up? I'm the Soypill. Thanks for having me. I do video essays and I stream sometimes. Do I give my intro now or just say who I am?
We'll do openers
later. Okay, yeah, that's me.
And then John Paul.
All right, I'm John Paul. I am a student at UC Berkeley, where I'm studying philosophy, economics, and public policy. I'm also the president of the Turning Point USA chapter here, and I've made several appearances on media outlets such as Fox News or The Charlie Kirk Show, and have done a lot of work within the conservative movement.
All right, Mr. Andrew Wilson.
Yeah, my name is Andrew Wilson. I'm the host of The Crucible. I'm a political satirist. I'm a political analyst, and I do debates of all sorts all around the world.
All right, and finally, Vince.
I am the Vince Wilson Show. I am a political commentator. I stream on YouTube, Twitch, and occasionally I will be on TikTok Lives, and I try to post as many YouTube Shorts and TikTok Lives as possible, so you can find me on any of those platforms.
All righty. Soy, you have 2 minutes.
Intro? Yeah, I'll be faster than that. So yeah, the stats show that the overwhelming majority of political violence is committed by the right wing, but I wouldn't attribute all of this to rhetoric. I think many people need extreme circumstances or mental illness in their life to want to risk everything and think that their violence will have substantial impact. It's also kind of silly that we talk about political violence in America as some sort of like major thing when you can look at, I don't know, the Troubles during Ireland or any other political violence where it becomes a part of everyday life with paramilitaries. But to be fair, we're still going to, centralize this to America. And I think that ultimately, if we want to look at whose rhetoric is more harmful, it's undeniably also the right. Democrat politicians, again and again, will try to build bridges and condemn violence, while Republicans, especially Donald Trump, will deflect, turn up the temperature, and even pardon those who commit political violence on his behalf, calling to defeat the enemy within, the Democrats, the extremist party, or in some cases, the party of pedophiles. So I think the rhetoric and blame is incredibly one-sided.
All right, John Paul.
All right. Once again, I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight and everyone who's watching. And tonight's debate hinges on whoever can pin the most blame on the opposing mainstream political party. And I never thought I'd have to debate violence against the party of death, riots, and abortion, but here I am defending what I believe to be the obvious answer to the question. Now, due to the left's tendency to misclassify and misrepresent political violence, I will be extra clear on the framework for the debate morally and definitionally. Violence is the behavior involving physical force to cause harm or destruction. And when that violence is political, it is set to achieve certain political ends. When we analyze which party is more culpable for the presence of political violence, we must look at the specific actions taken by the mainstream party that are plausibly linked to the occurrence of those political violent actions. The more impactful, damaging, and persistent that political violence is, the more culpable the mainstream party is as a result, assuming you could properly link the party to the violence. With that said, the core distinction here between the two parties is clear. Almost all violence from the right comes from the fringe right and is always condemned, whereas almost all violence from the left comes from the overwhelmingly present factions with strong ideological backing and influence in the mainstream Democratic Party, which typically normalizes, excuses, or rationalizes violence. The violence from the fringe right cannot be linked to the Republican Party since, again, their ideology is never taken seriously by the party, and such violence is always condemned. The violence from the left is strongly associated with the rhetoric, ideology, and the movement of the mainstream left, which is culpable for fostering a climate for such violence. In modern U.S. history, the largest sustained political violence comes from the left, in which the mainstream persistently tries to exclude reports of discussion or political violence, namely the 2020 BLM and Antifa riots, which caused $2+ billion of destructions, dozens of murders, and thousands of injured officers. Kamala Harris, as a response, promoted the Minnesota Freedom Fund that bailed out rioters, and major news outlets described the arson as looting as justice, with many left-wing academics and activists openly arguing that property destruction isn't violence. The aggressive and persistent references to Republicans as fascist Nazis and literally Hitler also does not help. If you think it is good to kill Hitler, which it is, then it is good to kill Republicans. Maybe that's why Charlie Kirk's assassin etched in Antifa slogans and catch fascist on the bullet that he used to shoot him with. So the distinction is clear. If a pro-life Jewish conservative walks onto Columbia University, he's at risk of being assaulted.
You almost done?
Yes, this will be the last line. If a pro-life Jewish conservative walks on Columbia University, he is at risk of being assaulted. Whereas if a general Democrat walks on Hillsdale College, he's at risk at losing a debate. So I think the framework for this is very clear. Fringe right is responsible for most of the violence from the right, whereas the mainstream left is responsible for building the climate that creates these large-scale violent acts.
All right. Thank you very much. Andrew Wilson.
Shouldn't the leftists go first? So it's left, right, left, right.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, actually. I was just going in order of introduction.
I mean, not to tell you how to run your own show, but just so you know, I'm better at it than you. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. Vince.
Yeah, I got you. So, who is more responsible for political violence in America? The evidence shows the right commits more of it, but the difference isn't just in the numbers, it's in the response. When violence comes from the left, Democrats condemn it outright. When it comes from the right, Republicans deflect, blame mental illness, and ignore their own rhetoric. That imbalance matters. One party takes responsibility, the other refuses. Own the consequences of its rhetoric, it becomes indirectly more responsible for the violence that follows.
All righty. Thank you for the very succinct
That was
opener.
it. Short tweet.
And Andrew.
Yep.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Very
right.
succinct. To the point.
Yeah, I guess. All right. So all of the claims from our opponents are going to hinge on studies that I guarantee you none of them have read. The soy pill likely will actually tell you the truth about that. He's pretty good about that. He'll probably actually tell you, you know what, I didn't actually read any of these. Vince Wilson will not. He'll pretend that he did, but he didn't read any of them. Let me tell you how I know that. I know that because of all the claims as I've gone through the two which they focus on, which are from the Cato Institute, and then the second one, which is from a specific project that an Antifa member is in charge of. The first claim is that the right is responsible for 6 times as many terror deaths compared to the left, and that's according to Cato. That's what they focus on. And the truth, Cato only focuses on deaths from terrorism and has glaring omissions, which put the entire study in question, which includes the fact that Michael Renault is Portland Antifa, and he's on camera saying, well, that he is. So anyway, Daryl Brooks, who's a noted black supremacist, in case you guys don't know this, killed 6, all white, injured 70, comments on whites. As we get into the study, guess what? Not included, even though there's a political motive. We can compare this. So, by the way, the Atlanta spa shooting, this is with Robert Aaron Long, listed as right-wing, killed 8. But what's really funny about this is if we compare it with Sutherland Springs, where 26 are dead, it's not included at all. So every time I make a comparison to when the motivation was pretty clearly left-wing, they just don't include them. So what I need to see is, one, I need to see in their studies that the 2020 Summer of Love, baby, actually is counted as a left-wing violence. It's not going to be, which skews the numbers. And also, I have an exhaustive, almost exhaustive list of left-wingers who have conducted political violence who are not included in any of these studies. Example, I think his name is Mauricio Garcia. He killed 8. The ADL disputed that was even politically motivated. Vance Bolter, this is another one. He explicitly told reporters that it wasn't due to pro-lifer Trump that the congresswoman, that he shot this congresswoman because he was anti-abortion. None of these things get included or classified correctly. And so here's what's going to happen. Every study you fuckers cite, you dishonest fucking leftist scumbag cite, I'm going to pull it up, And I'm going to go through and I'm going to look for these names. And if those names aren't there, they're not cited in there, I'm going to know that you're a bunch of gutless fucking liars, didn't read your own shit, because that's what always happens, right? Every single time. You're a bunch of filthy, gutless, lying sons of bitches, and you're not going to get away with it today. We're going to go through your dumbass studies, and we're just going to look at the classification. We're going to find out that when it's reclassified correctly and we take out, prison violence from prison Nazi gangs, that, it turns out not quite as lopsided as we've been led to believe. So, yeah, I'm happy to get into this debate. And John, it's nice to meet you. And let's stomp these fucking tards.
Alrighty, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Just first off, I want to say, Andrew, you jumped ahead of yourself a little bit there. I am not using the Cato Institute. I'm not using the ADL. I'm using the Center for Strategic and International Studies, which is the one that kind of...
the CSIS.
The CSIS.
Yeah, I got him in front of me.
You got him up? Yeah, okay. That one maps up to the DOJ one as well, which is taken down, right?
Yeah. Would you like to go through the CSIS and look at all of the disputes and problems that I have with the CSIS study?
I would actually ask you to affirmatively show me any sort of study that shows that the right wing is overwhelmingly not the committers of violence. You can poke holes in anything, and I understand that, hey, this didn't include that. And you could have up to thousands of examples, but if there are thousands of examples of violence and your little discrepancies are well within the margin of error, unless you can provide me a study that shows that the right wing is not committing more violence, I'm sorry, I'm not going to play this doesn't count because I don't want it. So let's see your study.
First, we need to make sure that we classify these things correctly. Can we classify what you and I, or what we and your side would consider to be right or left wing, and what would fit in that category, so that we can determine if those people who fit in that category are conducting violence or not?
I bet if we get into the definition game, we're going to be here for 2 hours, but we can try.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty important that we understand that if there's people here who are being included who you don't even consider left-wing or right-wing, that they probably shouldn't be included to begin with, right?
Yeah,
and by the way,
hang
on. Let me finish. Almost done. I'll toss it back over. The biggest problem that you have with your frontal argument here is you're saying, on the positive front, if you don't show me studies, even though you're already disagreeing with the classifications in these studies, which are already out here, that somehow that means that we lose. That's absurd. I'm disagreeing with these classifications to begin with. And if you could show me the equivalent of your high-profile leadership getting shot and your president's almost getting murdered, I'd love to see it. But your studies, the studies which are used for this positive claim that right-wingers are doing it more, are very suspect.
Right. I'm not saying that if you can't give me a study that shows that left-wingers do it more, that you lose the debate. I'm saying that I have a classification that I mostly agree with that's used here. And if you have a different classification, or if you heavily disagree with this classification, I would love to see some evidence that uses your classification and also shows that left-wingers do it more.
Well, let's start with your truth
If you were
claim.
able to take the numbers out of this study and say, well, actually, I classify this differently, we can compare those two numbers, and then ultimately, drop a new graph, sure, I could use that. That would be fine. But otherwise, I don't think there's a point in going through and saying, well, I have a minutiae of problems with this classification. Therefore, especially when in my intro, I said specifically, if we want to get into the rhetoric and what is actually causing it, I think that's much more important, but we could do either one.
Well, the first thing that we would need to do is create these classifications to make these determinations, to make sure you even agree with them yourselves. Why is that so important? Because if your fucking assholes are going to be running around telling people that the right is committing much more political violence than the left, and then banking on studies as the thing which proves this for you, then you're going to need to demonstrate that first and foremost.
I think you ought to demonstrate how Darrell Brooks, who killed Sticks, it was a politically motivated attack. Can you elaborate that for me, Andrew?
What's that?
Can you elaborate how Darrell Brooks, who killed Six, was a politically motivated attack? You mentioned him in your opening.
Oh no, I was making a comparison about how they don't make these classifications correctly by their own rules in that particular study. I'd have to bring both those studies up for the comparison, but that was the point I was making.
So Darrell Brooks' example is you just don't know nothing about that case, then, right?
Can you repeat back what I just said, please?
I want you to answer mine.
Yeah, I know, but I need you to repeat back what I just said so that I know that you know what I just said. What did I just say?
You were trying to mention in your opening how these are glaring contradictions.
No, I didn't say that they're contradictions. You're a fucking idiot. What I said was that if you make a comparison, This thing over here is left-wing violence. This other thing that's exactly like left-wing violence is not left-wing violence. It's omitted, right? Then what I'm asking is that if we're going to make these types of comparisons, let's create a classification for what we consider left-wing to be, what left-wing violence is, and then see if I can go through an extensive list of left-wing violence and make sure that these things were actually included, because if not, we have glaring omissions. Do you agree?
Okay, and you mentioned Daryl Brooks.
Yes, as a comparison.
How is Daryl Brooks? Hold on, no, Andrew, answer my question. You mentioned it. How is that an example of left-wing extremism? Please elaborate.
I wasn't saying that it was. I was making a comparison that we can bring up all of these different names so that we can make a determination on if they are actually included as being left-wing violence, not left-wing violence, right-wing violence, not right-wing violence.
And you use Daryl Brooks. So answer the question.
What's the question?
Why did you use Daryl Brooks as a form of left-wing extremism?
I didn't.
Tell me about the case.
I didn't, you stupid fuck. I didn't.
Yes, you did. You did.
Okay, fine. Then I guess I'll clarify as much as I possibly can, since you have the IQ of the room that you're in. Very clearly, what I'm trying to do is establish a comparison contrast. Left wing versus right wing. And if we agree thing, left wing or right wing, and then we can determine if they in study or not in study. That's it.
Did you or did you not use Daryl Brooks as an example of left-wing extremism?
No, I don't think I did. I think I was making an example of comparisons.
Go ahead. We'll continue.
But in any case, I just clarified it 15 fucking times. If that's what you heard, then that's not definitely not what I meant. So who cares?
You did not do any basic research on what the Daryl Brooks case was about. So I'm glad. We'll continue. Go ahead.
What does this have to do with anything? In fact, even better, let's say I'm completely ignorant on all of these cases. Then I guess going through each of them and determining whether or not they're left or right-wing violence would behoove both of us, wouldn't it?
I think that we should stay focused on less about these definitions, which we can get into, but it's just going to be a semantic
What is
argument.
more fucking...
I think we should stick to.
This is this is a semantical... this entire argument is semantics. Left-wing versus right-wing violence is completely 100% semantics. What else is it? What else is it besides semantics, bro?
Vince, the issue is that we're talking about the semantics because the studies are primarily focused on classification. They're not going to include the 2020 BLM and Antifa riots because property destruction, for some reason, lighting a building on fire is not political violence. But when a white supremacist who became a white supremacist in prison to survive commits assault on another prisoner, somehow that is political violence perpetuated by the right. And your burden is much, much more stronger than simply citing a number in a study. You can't just cite a number in a study, say, hey, look, this study based off of faulty classification shows that there's more political violence from the right. You can't just do that because you don't know the proper classifications of things. And when you do adjust for the classifications of things, you understand where the largest scale scope of political violence has occurred, which side it is from. And you see that the left has persistently, time and time again, excused, rationalized, stood in front of burning buildings, saying the mostly peaceful protest behind me. And you go in there and you cheer with these studies and saying, like, look at this
Chuck
study.
Schumer
This is what I have.
said, that's great. So if you go to the BLM protest, you can see where Chuck Schumer actually came out and said that the small minority who have exploited the protests to wreak havoc and violence are wrong, and they are not taking part in the grand American tradition of First Amendment protests. That was from
so why do you think Kamala Harris
we also had
raised
Gretchen
bail
Whitmer.
funds
That's
for-
great. We still had Gretchen Whitmer.
That has nothing to do with anything.
Who have taken to the streets to yes, because what it means is that the left, once again, as I mentioned, consistently condemns the rhetoric. I would encourage you to point out to me, for example, where you could maybe point to January 6th and say where Donald Trump condemned it, yet he then pardoned over 1,600 defendants. So again, you want to talk about how the left never condemns any of this rhetoric. There's several examples in which the left consistently condemns this rhetoric.
Wait, I'm confused.
Did
you just say that Donald Trump endorsed J6 by not pardoning the J6 defendants?
No, by pardoning them is what he said.
Yeah,
Yes.
and how long did that take for the pardons to come through? For the pardons to come through for the J6ers?
Why does that matter?
Well, because
4 years.
because the reason that would matter is because that would mean that he allowed for evidentiary findings to come through before he made the decision about pardons or not pardons, right?
Right. So when he pardons someone like Enrique Tarrio for committing, seditious conspiracy to overthrow the government, who is convicted of that and in jail for that, and he pardons him because he aligns with this political agenda, that is somehow exculpatory, matters that
I
the
think
evidence came out later?
you're-
Like, what does that have to do with it?
First of all,
You're jumping way off the scale.
totally
of the
totally
We
off
are,
the
but I just
topic.
think this is a
But I'm
very
actually
weird
happy.
one.
Just very quickly, I'll engage with this. Right, the president has discretion to make those pardons based on what he considered to be a political witch hunt.
Yeah,
Whether
I'm
the guy
aware
was
of it. Yeah,
convicted,
and it's
whether the
endorsing
guy,
people
whether he
who
was
did the thing,
convicted
or you plan to overthrow
or
the
not, and just like how Joe Biden decided to pardon his kid on the way out the fucking door. Okay, thing is,
Sure.
is like
And if his
you
kid
could
had
say,
been,
you could
arrested for
say,
violence, I would
like
say that's an
you could
endorsement of
say,
Hunter
you could
Biden
say what you
violence.
want there, but the thing is that the president has the power to make these pardons based on what he thinks is best, and he thought that there was a political witch hunt and that this guy didn't deserve to be thrown in prison for this.
Yeah, that's a lot of words to say he pardoned a seditious conspiracist. But I want to get back to this BLM thing, because when we're talking about political violence and why or why not this is classified as political violence, I think you have to look at what is the downstream following of a partisan message from Democrats, from Republicans, and what is actually happening here. You can call BLM political violence if it's, hey, these people were trying to. Well, hold on, let me see. Do you guys agree on the definition that political violence is a violent or credible threat of violence intended to influence government policy or intimidate civilians for political or ideological purposes?
I think it's close enough. I may make slight addendums, but I think it's close enough for this discussion.
I like
Just
to
in case, what would you amend?
I like to predicate it with causing harm or destruction.
Yeah, or coercion.
Sure. I would say, I'm not going to get pedantic and say that violence or threats or even, burning down buildings is somehow not political violence, just to be clear. I don't think that's why it's not counted. I think the reason BLM
And when they were burning down police stations, did any of these studies include that? Just
I'm
wondering.
not sure, but again, the problem
Probably
is
not.
doing this. It might not have for that specific one, but when you look at the totality of all of these things and you look at people rioting and taking advantage of a movement, which again, as much as it is a meme, were overwhelmingly peaceful as a percentage, is not the same as political violence intended to spread a message, change people's ideology.
Did you really just do the fiery but mostly peaceful line? The fiery but mostly peaceful.
Literally,
I think it's actually really.
had no violence.
I think it's really
in them,
telling.
but, yeah.
I think it's really telling that the majority of this organization was mostly peaceful. When you have such large scale violence and destruction, $2+ billion of damages.
Here, I'll build a
dozens
bridge to you,
killed.
John. I think the MAGA movement is mostly peaceful as well, despite January 6th and any violence committed by MAGA.
Right. Okay. So I think there's something really crucial about the framework of this debate here, is that we're trying to analyze which party is more responsible. So when
Right.
you say that, like Donald Trump pardoning people 4 years after the violence was committed, then you're not really showing any culpability for Donald Trump. He didn't do anything to cause the violence. For
Well,
instance,
we can get to the January 6th causes, but I'm specifically saying that he is showing that there's no consequences to committing political violence on his behalf. The reason I'm bringing up the BLM,
they were in jail for years. What are you talking about, dude?
He wasn't president when he wanted to pardon them.
I know. I was just
saying.
Wait. Donald Trump could have pardoned all of those people on his way out of office. What are you talking about?
No, I don't think he could have done that.
I think he could have. Yes, he could have.
Within his power, but I don't think it was in the political set to do it at the exact moment.
Oh, so he could have. So he could have then, is what you're saying? He could have.
I don't know if he could have mass pardoned them in.
Why not?
Before any of their
Why not?
sentences were finished.
Yes, he could have. You can pardon somebody before they ever even have to face a federal trial. You pre-pardon them.
I don't know if that was within his purview at the time, but maybe I'm wrong. The point is,
you're definitely wrong.
Okay, sure. The point is that we're talking about the downstream effects of the rhetoric of these politicians and how maybe a BLM riot might be like an execution of said rhetoric. So when you're looking and trying to classify BLM as political violence, you'd have to show that this violence is being perpetrated as like an extension of what these people are saying. Like, hey, I'm telling you need to go cause harm in this, or you need to go extend and perpetuate my message, and they're doing the violence to do that, when an overwhelming majority of these riots were just people fucking rioting and looting for no reason, no political ideology, just taking advantage of chaos.
That's a very useful kind of red herring or something like this, but it's not actually demonstrated to me that these people weren't there on the ground with Antifa terrorists, for instance, domestic terrorists, by the way, who were, and we have video after video after video of them often leading these mobs and inciting them towards violence. So the thing that's really funny.
More explicit there? What do you mean?
Yeah, guys dressed all in black show up. They start breaking windows, setting fires. Suddenly there's mobs all over the place. I know, not a good enough evidence for you, but for most people who are watching the videos, they tend to think, that looks very much like organized terrorist activity. Just saying.
Okay,
Like,
so to be
it
clear,
does.
you don't like our studies that have comprehensive, analysis and methodology, because you might disagree with the methodology, and that's fine. But your evidence that you're going to prevent to me that BLM is politically motivated in a majority is that I saw some videos and they had masks on.
Well, wait a second. Hang on. First of all, you're making a conflationary argument. I didn't make the conflation that, BLM is left wing versus your studies of the right wing. I have a much more comprehensive argument. My argument would be that the left is full of many, many more mentally ill people than the right, and I can give you studies which you would agree show this. They suffer from greater rates of depression, greater rates of overall feelings of unwellness and unhappiness. And when left-wing political primary people, this would be congressmen, senators, people in political leadership, tell these mentally ill individuals in their base that they're dealing with fascists and Nazis who are trying to take away their rights, that actually creates much more of a motivation for that mentally ill base than anything on the right, who seems to be able to discern between funny rhetoric and panic mode like you guys do anytime Trump sneezes.
Would you say that you
So, Andrew, wait.
inflict and ask violence on you and your family by naming yourself Big Papa Fascist?
You mean a debate handle?
Yeah.
A satirical debate handle?
Oh, it's a joke? Okay.
Yeah.
But these people are mentally ill. They
it's a
can't
joke.
tell the difference. That's
You
us.
couldn't, hang on. You didn't think that the debate handle Big Papa Fascist was satire? Are you
I don't know.
fucking
I mean,
serious? You
all
thought
the-
did you think I really thought I was the biggest papaist of all the fascists? Like,
No,
what the fuck are you
really
talking?
think you embrace fascism in a lot of ways. You want a Christian nationalist
What?
nation, and
That's
it
not
seems like
fascism.
it doesn't
You don't know
really
what
matter
fascism even
ultimately.
is,
It
dude.
doesn't
Give me a
ultimately
break.
matter, Andrew, because like you said, you're talking to a bunch of mentally ill left-wing people. Maybe they're not able to discern whether or not it's a joke. They're not so good at humor, and maybe you're inviting violence on you. And your family.
So right wingers can't do
Right?
satire because if they do, left wingers may be provoked to violence. Great argument, Soypill.
No, I'm saying that if you're
Great
accusing people of
argument.
accurately describing right wingers as fascists when they do fascist things, and that is invoking
What
violence.
fascist
But I would
things?
say calling yourself a fascist is probably also doing
Yeah.
that, and I would probably
You
try
don't
to
think the
distance
point-
myself from
you
any
don't-
and
you
all
don't think the
past
point of-
names that I had that might invoke violence on me.
I got it. So when the left is calling right wingers
Mhm.
fascist for things like wanting to close off the border and having pro-life positions, that's fascism. You think that
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay, got it. So then that would not be justified use of calling them fascists and Nazis because they have pro-life positions? Would you like example after example after example of various left-wing politicians calling right-wingers fascist, authoritarians, and other
No, I don't need
because
the
they have
examples. I'll call
pro-life
them fascists.
positions?
You don't even need to use the politicians.
Wait,
I mean, we're talking about the politicians, but ultimately, I probably agree with those statements. Go ahead,
Mhm.
Vince.
I'm curious here. So, Andrew, was your argument earlier then that because the left has predominantly more mentally ill people on their side, that using inflaming rhetoric such as fascist or things of that may invoke some of those people to act upon those impulses because of the fact that they are more mentally ill?
Worse.
Is that
My argument actually is that the rhetoric specifically is targeted towards that mentally ill base in order to move them towards political action.
Okay.
Not caring
Great.
about violence at all.
Gotcha. So
Mhm.
would you agree though, because it seems like when you say there's more mentally ill, it does not negate the fact that there is still mentally ill people on the right, correct?
I don't disagree with that. Of course not.
Okay. So then if you have certain
But I would
rhetoric
say-
that
I
is
would say
given
on the
out by
right-
would it not?
Yeah.
Oh,
I would
okay,
say on the right. Well, there's distinctions in the types of mental illness that you're dealing with. On the right, the
Okay.
types of mental illness you're usually dealing with are things like PTSD. We've seen a lot of this. Not necessarily politically oriented. A lot of times that mental illness isn't triggered by politics or political rhetoric. It's triggered by various other things because PTSD can affect people in bizarre ways. Left-wing mental illness is generally feelings of depression, feelings of unwellness, feelings of dissatisfaction, things like this. And a lot of those are actually associated with the political system as being things that make them feel like they have anxiety, make them feel like they're existing in a depressed mode. So I think that these politicians definitely target these people because they're very useful, jobless retards who show up to these protests in Portland and are clearly mentally ill. They're swinging their boobs around. You know, they all have blue hair. They have nose rings all over. Obviously, there's something wrong here with these people. Come
Could
on.
you give like an example, Andrew? Like, I don't know, like Chuck Schumer, I guess is probably called him a fascist, and like how you can demonstrate like this Chuck Schumer, the guy who the left, especially the radical leftists, probably more the mentally ill ones, will agree on that, to see as a feckless, detriment to their left-wing movement, who they want to overthrow and install some communists to replace him. This is the guy who is radicalizing people to hurt right-wingers. Like, could you show me like a quote?
Who? Which guy are you
Like
talking
Chuck
about
Schumer,
specifically?
or like Hakeem Jeffries, or like any like political Democrat leader who like you
Oh
truly
yeah,
think
well,
is
what they do,
radicalizing
yeah.
like these far left.
They don't
people.
just utilize all political pundits. Oh, in fact, when I was going through to get a comprehensive list of political pundits who have called right-wing politicians fascist and Nazis, I almost couldn't find one that didn't. It was like finding the exception. It was actually what's really funny is like even The Economist do it. Even the left-wing economists are like, Trump's a fascist. It's crazy.
Well, when he does fascist shit, and they
I mean, come on, man. Like,
yeah.
he's not a fascist. Bill Clinton. We were just watching a speech the other night, right? He came out with a much more brutal immigration policy than Trump ever had. He sounded like one of these modern right-wing authoritarian fascists.
Bill Clinton called for mass deportations.
He did.
So do you think?
And to lock down the entire, he called to lock down the entire southern border, and he wanted more isolationism with NAFTA, actually, rather than global trade, which was interesting.
Interesting. Well, still,
So,
Andrew,
Andrew,
before you ask, I still wanted to answer my question as to
go ahead.
what politician that's like calling Trump a fascist is inciting these far left people, or far left people are seeing.
Well, it's not
from...
just them. So how this works is.
But we're talking about the politicians.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think that.
Well, actually, okay. Well, sure.
Like,
in fact, I'll tell you what. Just name a Democrat. Let's play a game. Name the Democrat. I'll find the quote. Okay, Chuck Schumer calling Trump or right wingers fascist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, do you think calling somebody a fascist is a call to violence, or do you think it is inflammatory rhetoric that should be condemned?
I think it depends on the context in which it's used.
Do you think it's good to kill Hitler?
But hang on.
I don't know. Hitler did it, so would you say that Hitler's good?
He's got you there, John.
Yeah, well, I guess so. I mean, on a very.
I'm leaving it open.
I think there's certainly a lot of people who think that is very good to kill Hitler. If Hitler was still around and committing genocide, then that would be a good action to take in order to ensure the safety of the world.
Okay,
and
so
when you have mainstream media,
hang on, I just want to answer, and because you Soy Pill's being good faith, I'll be good faith back. You are actually correct in one sense that Schumer hasn't directly used the word fascist. He says instead that he's an authoritarian here to take all your rights. It's like,
no, to be
okay.
Clear, I wasn't saying
it's like,
that
okay.
He said it. I assumed that he had called him a fascist, if anything. I'm asking you, can you demonstrate how Chuck Schumer calling him a fascist is the inspiration for these far left people who hate
Well,
Chuck
it wouldn't
Schumer,
if it was just if it was just Chuck Schumer rather than the political party itself saying things like, let me give you an example, the unison of Trump is a danger to our democracy, calling for his impeachment consistently and constantly. Why is he a threat to democracy? Right now, we have Gavin Newsom, for instance, who's saying that he's going to overstay the election, that his entire purpose is to have a third term. He's coming to take all of your rights. This is a unison party message.
Yeah, and I agree with all of this, by the way. But to be clear, you're saying that this is an explicit call to violence, despite all the people saying that this is an electoral solution that we have.
No, let's untangle the argument, because there's multiple stages to it. So step one, that in and of itself would not be considered a call to violence as such. However, what it's trying to do is energize the base towards in the street protest and move them towards the idea that Trump is here to take all of your rights, take everything away from you. He's an authoritarian. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. He's all of these various things. That then goes down to the governor level, goes down even to the state level, and it goes to the pundits on MSNBC, CNN. They begin to regurgitate the same exact things. And yes, the idea is to motivate these people who have a very mentally ill base to go out and conduct political violence. It does seem to translate that way. Every time I see them out in the street, they seem to be doing violent shit. I don't know what to tell you. 2020, the summer of love, they were out there doing violent shit. The protest we just covered that happened in California, out there doing a bunch of violent shit. The Portland protests that we just covered. Also doing violent shit, fighting in the streets. They were trying to provoke the cops. It's like, what do you want me to do? Every time I look at the street and there's a bunch of leftist protesters, that seems to be accompanied by a bunch of fucking violence and the media saying, it's fine, it's good, it's all good.
My question is, let's just assume for a second that there was a fascist and a bunch of people who were fighting against this fascist had a mentally ill base. Would it then be irresponsible of them to accurately describe their opponent as fascist, because ultimately some of the most mentally ill and fringe people on that base would then go and commit violence that you think is bad? Or how would one deal with that if they truly didn't believe that their opponent was that?
So contextually, right, if it's the case, there's an actual Nazi who's in office, okay, who is trying to bring back the Third Reich, and it just so happens that you're motivating your base against an actual Nazi, and some of them are mentally ill. Yes, of course, there wouldn't be any problem with that. The whole point then would be to overthrow, though, wouldn't it? Wouldn't the whole point of that be? Hang on. Wouldn't the whole point of that be that you're motivating this base against this Nazi to do what? Good things to him? Do you want him to do good things to him? Like, what do you want him to do to him?
If you truly thought that there was no possible way for you to do this through the system, then yeah, why would you be out there getting people to canvass? Why would you be out there telling people, go register to vote? Why would you do anything other than, hey, we need to mobilize our little infiltration?
Hang on, here's the thing that's really funny is, like, yes, there's one branch that does that, and then there's other branches which seem to motivate people to shoot political commentators, take shots at the President of the United States, beat people in the streets, set cars on fire, set buildings on fire, and are very unapologetic about it, and are continuing to organize yet another No King's Day nationally to do even more of this shit. So the thing is like, again, I'm going to throw this back to you because I answered in good faith. Yes, of course you would motivate your population, but motivate them to do what? You're not going to be motivating them to do good things to the Nazi in charge, are you?
Well,
let him answer. Let him answer, dude.
This is something that I agree with most of the politicians in the way that they're classifying Trump as a fascist. I think Nazi is obviously too far. He's not that, but calling him.
Well, they're not going to do good things to the fascists, right?
And I'm saying, look, guys, if I thought this was a non-electoral solution, there was no electoral solution here, that you had absolutely no other option, kind of like what Trump did in January 6th and saying, hey, your country failed you, Mike Pence failed you. I would say, yeah, maybe we should go do a violence. But obviously, I don't think we're there yet. I wouldn't be having this debate if I thought the only option was violence. So when we look at like the BLM stuff, and we look at the way the Democratic politicians, whether it's Newsom, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and say things like, I mean, I have a quote here. He says, there's no place for violence. There's no place for looting or destroying property or burning churches or destroying businesses, et cetera, constantly condemning this. I don't understand how you can say, well, by accurately describing this person the way that they believe him to be, and then saying also don't commit violence, we can win this electorally. This is somehow necessarily going to result in violence only because there are, I guess, a disproportionate amount of mentally ill people on the left wing. It doesn't particularly make sense.
I'm sorry, aren't you a person who believes in the idea of dog whistles?
Yeah, but it's not a dog whistle.
Okay, so hang on. So
you
obviously politicians aren't going to come out directly and go, "Hey guys, you need to start killing right-wing politicians, and you need to start killing like, right-wing political commentators."
Priest,
yeah, right? They would say things instead like, "This person is trying to,
like,
I don't know,
like hell." I mean,
they're trying. Hang on. I'll engage with you. Let me finish the point.
I'm
almost done. Almost done, bro. Almost done. So, like, saying things like, Donald Trump is trying to mobilize the military so that he can declare martial law and exist for a third term. Yeah, that's not really in the domain, I think, anymore, of like, we're just trying to motivate our political base to get out there and get charged to vote him out. How do you vote a person out who you're claiming is trying to stay for an additional term by using the military? How do you do that? You don't do it. So the whole point is, yes, I think that there's a bit of dog whistling going on there of, hey, he's an authoritarian fascist who's trying to overstay his welcome in the Oval Office, and he's prepared to use the military to put you down. So we need to really get these guys because they're a bunch of fascist Nazis. That's very much what the call is right now.
Yeah,
yes.
I think if they said that was the only thing that's going to happen, I think saying he may try is much different. But I would agree that if they said Donald Trump will definitely 100% do this, and he's not going to leave office, he's going to use the military to crack down, I would say
that's what Newsom's saying.
No, he's not saying that's exactly
No, he's not.
definitely. He's saying there's a good chance.
Come on, man.
The difference being that there's a
I'm
lot of avenues-
87.5% sure that he's a Nazi who's trying to take power.
Can I please respond? So the difference being that there's all these other avenues that we've explored that Trump is also trying to explore that may not involve the military, such as changing the 22nd Amendment or running as vice president and then having JD Vance step down. He's talking about all sorts of other avenues, and it's like, okay, there's definitely this guy has demonstrated in the past that he does not want to leave office. He tried to, use false electors to stay for a third term, but we still defeated them electorally in that because the guardrails held, thank God. So saying that, oh, well, if this was the only option, maybe that could be potentially a dog whistle, but clearly all of these Democratic politicians are not operating under the assumption that violence is the only option.
So I mean, what level of surety you would actually need Gavin Newsom to be like, hey, everybody, I'm 100% sure this Nazi's trying to overstay his stay in the Oval Office and use the military right now to suppress people. So what? What does he have to say to convince you that he means what he's saying?
I think if you
Can you
continue
provide
to
an
see
actual
left-wing
quote that
violence
you are
perpetuated
using?
against right-wingers,
I can provide an entire video clip of this.
Democrat politicians refuse to condemn it and say, you know what, maybe this should happen more. I think that would be more of an indication of, they want more of this to happen. But at every single step, at every opportunity, they condemn this violence over and over.
Yeah.
And
meanwhile,
over
all the influencers are dancing after Charlie Kirk dies. We go to TikTok for the follow. We go to TikTok.
The influencers and not talk about the actual politicians.
Hang on a second. Didn't I just tell you that this is a tiered system? I walked you through the entire argument, and you said, Soy, you said, Soy, I largely agree with your assessment there. Those were your exact words.
I do largely agree, but again, when I bring
I don't know what to tell you.
Left-wing politicians are overwhelmingly condemning this, and you say, well, these influencers with a much lower reach aren't, and it's like, okay, well, are you going to address the fact that we're already talking about the inequality between the left and right?
Oh my God, politicians are speaking out of both sides of their mouth. That's so crazy that a politician on the one hand says I condemn the violence, but on the other hand, they go, oh, but wait a second, we're going to give you a place inside of this major metropolitan area to fucking riot. Oh, but we condemn the violence. It's like, what are you fucking talking about here, Soy?
Yeah, so you're setting up the idea that left-wing politicians giving permits and spaces for people to protest, which may turn violent at some point, is the same as them.
They let them take
advocating and perpetuating people shooting politicians and pundits and shit.
They let him take over an entire spot. He was finished. He was finished. You fucking idiot! Shut up. Now, by the way, Soy, yeah, did you see that? You see how I was right, doing everything right, and you're a dumb mob. So anyway, back to this, Soy, for you, just so that you understand, right? They took over an entire area of a city and called it Chaz Chop, said it was a neutral zone, declared it independent of the United States of America, and then had armed people. Hang on. Let me finish. Let me finish. Yes, not only was it downstream of that, but it was very clear that the politicians who were in charge of said city weren't going to do a fucking thing about it, while at the same time they were condemning violence. It's like, give me a fucking break with this shit.
Can you like?
Oh wait, so it's
if I were
interesting.
to go and
Andrew,
ask some of these like Chaz people, like who inspired them to do their Chazing? Do you think it would be like a Hakeem Jeffries, a Chuck Schumer, a Joe Biden, the radical Democrat left that inspired them to make a little stupid fucking square of a city and have a lawless zone, which was then cracked down on? Like, it's just ridiculous.
Cracked down on after how many weeks?
The left-wing politicians. Now, you might say that there are some left-wing governors or like super ultra progressive, attorney generals in like maybe like Portland or places like this that might actually agree with some of these crazy Antifa.
They don't just agree with them; they seem to be very assisting towards them.
Yeah, sure. Maybe even so. But the point is,
like in Portland, for instance,
as a totality of these parties, this is not something that like Antifa is not aligned with the Democrats.
Yeah, the thing is,
there's a very strong ideological backing for Antifa and BLM in the Democrats. The Democrats champion the Black Lives Matter movement. What are you talking about? Like this is why
you notice how you just jumped to the BLM thing, which is not what I'm talking about. I was talking about Antifa.
He said, he literally just said BLM was highly ideologically driven by the left. What do you mean he's not talking about BLM?
I wasn't talking about that. But if you look at BLM and the way that the left-wing Democrat politicians were responding to it, completely condemning all of this violence, saying rioting is completely unacceptable. And
bring to me another drink.
Harris promoted the Minnesota Freedom Fund to bail out the violent rioters. Like, I mean, come on.
I think that's the closest thing you can get to maybe she's advocating for violence, or maybe like a Maxine Waters saying you need to go get up in their faces. But then when you compare it to the totality body of statements where she's saying violence is not okay, but maybe we should, help.
How
people
many
out
of
with
these
their bail
left-wing
funds. It's very
organizations?
different.
How many of these left-wing organizations who are filled to the brim with attorneys back up all sorts of projects which are designed to bail out protesters, quote protesters, when they get cracked down on because they're breaking the law in the streets, and they pay their bail funds? NGOs will back up many of these organizations. I pointed this out in my last debate with Vince. I have a massive list of NGOs, which we can go through, who organized the No King's Day riots, and they were riots, and there were riots before those days. So the thing is like, I can show you the NGOs who helped organize this, and it's like to pretend that these people aren't working in unison with each other and aren't pushing towards violence. I think it's just crazy at this point. By the way,
Hey, Andrew,
another hang on, almost done. Another narrative.
I've been hanging on for 30
another
minutes,
narrative.
so
Well, hang on for
that's great.
hang on for
Let me
one
ask
more
you,
minute.
how-
Hang on for one more minute. So the thing
Hurry
is
up.
like, it was also you guys, remember, and your side largely, that was trying to distance yourself from violence by pinning it on a right-wing raper after Charlie Kirk was shot. Almost the entire narrative of the influencer left and the legacy media, which is left-wing, was trying to do this. And they've done everything possible, in fact, to say, nope, we didn't do it. It had nothing to do with our rhetoric. And then less than a week later, right? Oh, go to Twitter right now.
Right.
Charlie Kirk's a fascist Nazi. He's a fascist Nazi.
To be clear, because I've never said that. If anything, I thought the Groiper thing was jumping the gun, to be clear. But Vince, go ahead.
Yeah, Andrew, how many people were arrested during the Los Angeles protests?
Which one?
The one from the summer in June of 2025.
I'm not sure the numbers.
Anti-ICE riots.
Yeah, I'm not sure the numbers.
It was over 400 arrests.
Mhm.
So again, and when we pair that with Gavin Newsom's sentiment of, hey, we need you to peacefully protest, it doesn't seem like he's enabling it. It seems like he's actually, in fact, several people were arrested for felony charges like assault against police officers and for possessions of Molotov cocktails and a gun.
Mhm.
So again, if this was, Gavin Newsom dog whistling, I would imagine we would expect far less arrests. And I remember actually in our previous debate, where you said the cops were just standing around
and then
We
showed
watched
video
of
proof
where they were not.
Yeah, they were.
They were not just standing
Yeah,
around.
they
And
were.
evidently they weren't, because they
Not only
arrested
were they,
400
but we
people.
showed the video and demonstrated, and you look like an idiot because we showed it.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so
we showed it.
You acknowledge that there were 400 arrests that were made by Los Angeles PD due
Sure.
to these protests, right?
Sure.
Okay, so then it wasn't that Gavin Newsom was standing down or allowing this to happen. It seems like they were very adamant in trying to make sure that those who were not peacefully protesting were being held accountable.
Wait.
Like Donald Trump, who ended up pardoning those who actually
Wait a
committed
second.
crimes.
Here's how this tended to work during those protests. If you actually assaulted officers or gave them a hard time, they would arrest your ass. That's true. Okay, but they largely were standing around and watching everybody burn shit to the fucking ground, including what happened in the overpasses there. As you saw police on either side with paramedics on standby in case one of these protesters might have accidentally hurt themselves, lobbing a fucking rock over onto a police car that they had just set on fire. They wanted to make sure that those guys would get the help that they fucking needed. But the thing is, what's really funny about it, if you attack the cops directly, yeah, they don't put up with that shit. That's true. That's true.
I think we need to be there's a lot of like discussion that's like very beyond the scope that I'm seeing from our opponents here, because we need to be very clear. The left makes a climate that allows this type of violence to be highly associated with them ideologically. Like, for instance, we have a whole bunch of factions of the left that have risen up. I can name countless examples. You just gave an example of the anti-ICE riots. That's very ideologically fundamental to the left right now. We have the BLM movements that was very ideologically backed by the left as well. We have the pro-Palestine faction of the left, which the left constantly has to cater to and has caused countless of damages on college campuses. Yeah, pro-life journalists going and interviewing people and getting punched in the face. And you have our presidents being shot at, and you have our influencers dead. So it's like you need to have a very strong conviction to show that the party is very responsible by their ideological backing and their influence. And when you see bullets etched with Antifa slogans that are largely perpetuated by Democrats who are calling Charlie Kirk fascist, I think it is very clear what is going on here. There's a great unison with these politically violent actions and the party. Ideologically backed political ideologies from the party.
Let's give the kid a chance.
Highly associated with these acts.
John,
We
I
could
guess
talk
I have to
about-
ask if you were to like, sorry, Vince, I'll let you go because I know I've been talking a lot. But like, if you were to like ask
No,
like, an Antifa like rioter, one of these violent people, like, why do you think Charlie Kirk is a fascist? Do you think a single one of them would say it's because Joe Biden said so? It's because Gavin Newsom said so? It's because, and not these people are radicalized in their like little Marxist communist circles, and they read. I mean, you go to UC Berkeley, you should know this of all people because I know the people at UC Berkeley. They are learning this in like their little like hippie circles. This is not coming down from like Democrat politicians. Absolutely no one is being inspired by the Kamala Harris rhetoric on ICE.
Who
Like,
does
this
it
is
come
so
down to?
ridiculous.
Is in charge of these hippie circles?
Hmm?
How do
Who's in
they?
charge of them?
How do the people in charge of those hippie circles? How does that information get disseminated to them? Do you
Well,
think?
this is going to get super anecdotal for me, but when I encounter these people, it's all people that talk about theory and reading communist manifestos and stuff. But if you want to say that this is somehow perpetuated by left-wing politicians, I don't really see evidence for that. But
Wait a
that's
second. I'm
my
just
view.
following. I'm just following your line. These people they do have organizers. You agree that that's true?
Well, not
Where-
really Antifa, but
Yeah, they really do. In fact, I can give you one of the organizers who ran a project, which is probably where you get a lot of your stats from. And he said on camera, and I have a clip here, he literally says that he's Antifa and that Antifa does organize. So I don't know where you guys are
Antifa
coming up
organizers,
with that.
I really hate the like Joe Biden, like it's just an idea, because I think that is a deflection. I mean, obviously they're groups of people and they have like a symbol that like unites them, but ultimately it's not some like big top-down organization with like it's the head of Antifa. It's you get these little pockets of people that all kind of agree, read similar stuff, and decide to go go to the Ben
These
Shapiro
think the
protest.
same-
Exactly.
the same
the
thing-
universities here,
Go ahead.
the universities are a hub for this type of ideological backing from people where, yeah, sure, the Marxists come together at universities, which is completely dominated by the left. So that is like another form of mainstream left-wing politics that is going into the educational system and is influencing people to become radicalized. And so it's like, yeah, if I asked an Antifa, like, why did you shoot Charlie Kirk? The answer is
I
probably
love
not gonna
talking
be
shit to this
because Joe
mod,
Biden
too.
told me so.
It's one of my favorites.
But when you take a look at
You're
the
like, shut up,
climate that has
mod.
been
You
created
suck,
by the
mod.
left,
Shut your
it has
fucking
made it
mouth,
such
mod.
that you are predisposed
I just
to
like doing
believe
that.
Charlie Kirk is a fascist, to believe that all these people on the right really want to cause you harm, are threats to democracy, are Nazis, are Hitler, to the point where you are going to take actions because you are convinced by the social constructivist narratives that the left constantly perpetuates, and you think that when you commit an action in the name of social justice, that it is a good action, no matter what law you're violating, no matter what you're doing, so you can choose what laws to obey because it is in the name of some arbitrary social justice. All of this is under the umbrella of the left wing, who has created these ideologicals, these influences that have very predisposed people to commit these acts.
I guess the problem
can
I'm
I-
having is just like completely asymmetrical analysis where we can look at the left and say, yes, they condemn it totally. Yes, they arrest and punish these people. And yes, they say absolutely nothing that would indicate that doing this is okay. But when the right wing calls people fascists or Marxists or any of these other things and commits political terrorism, that is a direct downstream like of
It's because
the
of
policy
PTSD.
of the right
It's
wing.
PTSD.
It's
What
fringe.
are-
It's right wing.
Gee, what are they arresting all these people for? Are they arresting them for political violence, Soy?
Oh, there's
What are they arresting them
getting
all
really-
for?
We're getting way out of the
Right,
framework
because
of
they
the debate
don't
here.
want it to
Remember,
happen.
Because well, they're
All
right. So you're
doing
saying
it.
that a bunch of left wingers are conducting a bunch of violence and have to be arrested? Is that what you're saying, Soy?
I'm saying that yes, that
Oh,
left
yes.
do political violence. I
Yes,
would
they
never
sure
say that
do, and
doesn't happen.
and would you say that that's been kind of an ongoing theme here recently? And I mean, he just said 400 of them had to be arrested for conducting violence in California recently.
Not
No,
necessarily correct.
And what I
That's not-
remember,
no,
too-
hold
oh
on.
no, I
Hold
thought
on,
you just
wait,
said
wait,
that they're
wait, hold
that
on.
they're cracking
Hold
down on this
on.
behavior.
I can explain that.
Okay, I can't wait. I think we
Nearly
lost Vince.
400 arrests.
Up a little bit.
Oh,
I
can
think
you
we
hear me
lost
back?
Vince.
Oh, yep.
Hold on,
We
can you hear me?
All right. Yep.
Okay.
You're good.
So it said the vast majority of arrests have been for failing to leave the area in defiance of requests from law enforcement. So essentially staying out, and they're telling them to move and they didn't move and they got arrested. The other ones were more serious charges, and it was a handful, not a whole lot of them, but it was a handful of more serious charges, including for assault against police officers and then possession of a Molotov and cocktail. So again, when we
violence.
talk about, but the thing that's
Well,
really
just the
rich, like
vast
SOYPILL
majority for
said,
not leaving an area, so no, not
the
violence.
No, he just
wild thing about
cited
this-
violence.
Guys, let Vince finish. Let
Yeah,
Vince
the
finish.
wild thing about this to me is it's exactly like SOYPILL said. Y'all are providing numerous examples of the left, and that's fair, fine. Let me just provide a few here, because we had the 2024 election that happened last year, and there were numerous calls made into certain election and polling places. We also saw 2025 where the CDC shooter was all upset about the COVID-19 shot that he had gotten, and he didn't like. He thought he was melting his brain or whatever it was.
So
we also had the 2022 Buffalo. See, and that's right there exactly what I said in my opening statement. I'm glad you mentioned that, Andrew, because I believe in my opening statement I said when it's the left will openly condemn that violence. They say, hey, there's no place in there. When there was a protest, they'll say, hey, there's no place for this violence. But when the right does it, they then say, hey, guess what? It's because of mental illness, which is what I said. Or they'll say it's because of PTSD, but they'll never own their rhetoric.
That's
that
really
may have led up to that.
Wait. That's really
and anti.
Oh, you just cut out again.
Oh,
sorry, man.
We lost Vince again. All right. Well,
That's God. That's God smiting you for lying, by the way. But anyway, so where were we? Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is that we can point to certain rhetoric that may have led these mentally deranged people on the right go towards these particular acts.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, for example, that one person who talked about the COVID-19 shot. We've seen with the Buffalo shooter, for example,
Sure.
Anti-immigration sentiment, and we could talk about all that. And whereas on the left, we'll sit here when we have someone that does these things, condemn those particular violent actors. But on the right, they immediately, for example, we just saw the Mormon incident where the guy drove the truck through the church. And what was the first thing that everybody said? Instead of saying, hey, maybe our rhetoric is pretty bad, they go, hey, he's suffering from PTSD. It's not our rhetoric. Our rhetoric has nothing to do with it.
Was Christianity is under attack, and this is the left wing doing this. Then they said, once they realized it was a MAGA guy, that it was not.
Oh, well,
Exactly.
the thing is that my understanding is that the entire Mormon thing happened because of a girl that he was interested in, and they broke up. And yes, the guy was crazy. And so this is the thing that's really funny. So I'll just be very unequivocal with this, just like I was with Destiny. I condemn all acts of political violence, right or left, period. Am I saying that there's never any such thing as incendiary rhetoric which comes out of the right? Of course not. Am I saying that there's no such thing as people who say things which could trigger people to go do violent acts? Of course not. Am I even saying that there's a way to 100% avoid that and have speech? Of course not. Has nothing at all to do with this conversation about which side is doing this more. And so as we dive into this, we need to be very precise. Remember how I wanted to get these semantics in order, and you never want to fucking do that because you think it's a trap. You think it's a trick. Even though even though I keep trying to just tell you it's a great way to avoid equivocation. And Vince, if you do it more, we wouldn't have to run into this so much. So the thing is here that's interesting, I'm willing to go case by case. It could be the case.
Except for Darrell Brooks.
It could be the case. Yeah, no, I told you I was willing to go into that case as well. I was just explaining to you that I was making comparison contrast there about why it would be important for us to utilize studies the correct way by making correct classifications we could agree to. Again, semantics, very simple. The thing that's really interesting here is like, if you give me a case and it's very clear that this was motivated by the right, and there's compelling, significant evidence that it was, my side always universally condemns that, by the way. And Charlie Kirk universally condemned that, by the way. We always condemn it. We're always saying, I was the one on the Pierce Morgan panel saying, of course, I condemn this type of violence. It was the representation for your side, the Coomer gremlin, who just couldn't quite bring himself to say, probably wasn't a great idea that you took a shot at Trump and killed Charlie Kirk. It was him. So the thing is like,
so
we can't,
hang on. But we're talking about our politicians.
Yeah, we can't.
You really like to pivot on
you
this
keep
one.
you keep switching though. You keep switching between the two.
Sorry,
You're doing kind of like the worst form of equivocation because we start with me saying this works from the top down and you agree. So you've already agreed with me semantically that this is the case.
That pundits are way lower on that hierarchy.
What would that have to do with the left or the right conducting more violence? Why would it need to be necessary that this is driven 100% by the top of the hierarchy rather than it could be conducted by Antifa terror cells? It could be conducted by radicalization on side of college campuses. It could be conducted in all sorts of Discord groups, Telegram groups. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the top down. I don't think that the top-down rhetoric helps.
For it, then we need to look at one.
We're not just talking about that though. We're talking about who conducts more of it.
Right. So if we want to talk about who conducts more of it, and we really want to read through the CSIS study, I mean, we can talk about it. There's a reason why Like we can, but like it's going to be real boring. And the problem is at the end of it, you're either going to say, well, I don't agree with the methodology, and then not provide an alternative methodology that somehow parses through the numbers that you're satisfied with. And it's ultimately not going to get us anywhere because you're
That's
never
not,
gonna say,
wait.
well, the right
That
does it
is
more.
not how science works, Soy. Science does not work where you say, I have an experiment or some type of data collection here which is easily falsifiable and you have to replace it. That's not how that works. I don't need to give you alternatives to things that are bullshit. I don't need to.
I can name a bunch of things and look at these videos. And when I say a study, you can poke holes in it.
You
and
remember
that's
how
okay.
earlier
That is
you
how
said
science
that the
works.
study
You
is
have
not
to give me either
necessary
a
for the
better study,
demonstration?
a better methodology, or go through and parse through the cases used in this study and say, this is how they all are classified under my methodology and how then the numbers would add up, and then show me that new graph. But if you can do neither of those things, I'm going to choose to actually use the study. In the
Okay,
way that
well,
it
let's
works,
use, then let's use your own study, okay, to make
you
a
go.
demonstration.
GIS one in front of you?
Since
Here's
Trump
the-
was,
here's
some of the studies.
hang on, since Trump was reelected, this is according to Cato, the left
That's
is
not
killed.
the study.
It is. Shut up
No,
and let
it's
me
not.
finish. It is.
That's my
I'm, dude. If you shut
Oh.
up, I'll
Sorry,
show
what?
you.
Andrew.
The left has killed 2 times as many people, according to the CSIS. The one that you're referencing, the left-wing terrorism is at its worst in 30 years, according to the CSIS.
Are you talking about the little bar at the end where the left-wing terrorism has gone up by a little compared to the previous year, and then the right-wing bar
He's
is
cherry
still
picking.
extremely large?
He's cherry
Like, you're-
picking
Yeah,
that
you're looking
little
at the
tiny-
very last year that's not complete. Is that how we're going to?
I just told you that according to
Yeah.
Cato, the left's killed 2 times as many since Trump's election.
In the year since Trump's election, so you're only going to selectively look at 8 months, just to be clear. So to be clear, if your argument
When
is
the violence
left
has,
is more
you mean
left
when the
is more
violence has
violent in the
exploded?
past 7 months
exclusively,
and we only look at that, sure, okay. I mean,
Okay,
yeah,
hang on. Wait a second.
demonstrably true.
Wait a second. When was it that the left became completely mobilized towards violence? Was it under fucking Biden or was it under somebody else, Soy? Who else?
You mean like when Trump
Who?
was
Oh yeah,
2016?
like you mean under
Or
Trump
you mean
when they
current?
did mass protests before against Trump, and now we see the cycle repeating again under
on,
Trump.
you're
The
talking
most
about
critical
BLM,
term,
and you're talking
the most
about
critical
fear of blood,
term of
and now
showing
you're
this.
only able to look at you're like, okay, I'll use the stats, but only if I can pick out this very last bar of this last year, which I'll agree with. I'm saying, yeah, actually, this is true. I'm not contesting this study. I'm
Good.
agreeing. The left
Right.
is more
Great.
violent in 2025, according to the study, in the very last year. Now, if we're talking about
Got
exclusively
it.
that, I don't know which debate you signed up for, but I signed up for as a totality.
Okay,
You can
hang
look
on,
at this-
hang on.
This is graph. I mean,
This
I'll
is
pull it up for my
perfect.
audience.
Actually,
Can't show
this
it
is
to everyone.
perfect. This is
But
perfect.
It's pretty funny to
Yeah.
look at this and say, "Oh, yep, this is definitely a left-wing."
This is
problem." But,
perfect.
I
And
mean,
this is
So
this is the funny
hang
thing
on.
about
Let us
this,
finish
too.
our
This
exchange.
is the-
Are
this is the
you
funny
saying?
thing- This is
Oh,
the funny.
dude.
This is the funny
This
thing about
fucker will never
this,
let us finish
is
an
that-
exchange. Go ahead. Go ahead, Vince. I'm sure whatever you're about to say is important. Go ahead.
Let me. Yeah, here we go. So now that you're so the issue here is that you're pointing to this, but I remember when Trump was in office the first time, and we do have.
I don't know. I can't even understand the guy. So anyway, back to you, Soypill.
I'm sorry, my internet's garbage.
It is. It is garbage. You know what? I'm gonna hang on, Vince. I can actually help you with this. If you have a mobile hotspot, turn your mobile hotspot on and shut off your
I'm gonna turn
internet.
that on.
Yeah, turn your mobile
Yeah,
hotspot on.
I'm
So
not-
anyway, back to this, Soypill. Actually, now we're getting somewhere. So this is actually great. So you made the concession. You agree. Left-wing violence under Trump.
It's an agreement of objective reality.
Again,
You,
so-
by the way, have for the past.
am
hours,
I allowed
that
to
is not
fucking
true,
talk?
But now that you're looking at
Okay.
the last year, you're like, yep, it's true. So no, it's not. A
Okay.
concession.
Okay. So
let Andrew-
so anyway, I'll try to finish the point because you know you're about to get fucked here. So thing is on the CSIS, if you make the concession that it is the case that under Trump, left-wing violence is much higher, killed 2 times as many people, you agree with all of this, you're making the concession there. The thing that's really funny is this is why I want to go through the methodology. Because if you make the concession that the left is far more violent right now, and I agree with you, all that's left is whether or not the left has been violent this entire time, which is why we need to go through the methodology of the rest of the study. You see how that works? Because if I can demonstrate in the rest of the study, you're classifying things wrong, but we can agree the left is more violent now, we've won the fucking debate, Soy.
To be clear, no, because the debate is not. Is the left wing more violent in the current year? Is the who is more responsible?
Can you even
for
repeat
political
back what I
violence?
just said to you?
Second of all,
Can you even repeat back what I just
If
said?
you want to start on the axiom that we can concede that both of us agreed with this study for this one particular year, but then we have to go back and meticulously pick it apart for all the other years. No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Why not?
You're either accepting of the study or you're
What?
not.
What? Wait, what? I'm
So if you're
either
looking at this
accepting
last
of the
year and you
study or
agree
not.
with it, if you agree with this study's methodology, then okay, I accept that you agree with this methodology, and then we can look and see that the right wing is overwhelmingly responsible for political violence as a whole for most of human history, or not human history.
What?
But no, yeah. Excuse me, that was
So let me get it.
most of the history of the study.
Yeah,
No,
hang
I don't
on.
mean
Yeah, I understand. I'm not going to be a pedant, but let me just help me out here. If I had a study that said,
cherry pick and then go through the
yeah, so if I
methodology,
had
not
a,
just the
yeah,
methodology.
if I had a study and the study said that 100% of people who eat dog shit don't like how it tastes, right?
Mhm.
But 20% of white people or black people like how it tastes more than Mexican people. Can we agree that both of us could look at the methodology of that study and agree 100% of people don't like eating dog shit? We've now agreed. But we could have great differences on the methodology for how we came to that 20% number. Do you agree that that's true?
I agree that that's true.
Okay,
yes.
so
But
then hang
why
on,
are you
hang
saying
on,
there's a
bro.
concession
I'm
in the
trying to
last year if
explain,
you don't
trying to
necessarily agree with
explain,
methodology?
trying to explain. So when we go through the methodology of the classification, my concern there would be actually that it's discounted and it's even higher than they're claiming. But I'm willing to concede the point even on the CSIS on the end. If you are, we can go through the classifications for all of these other years. And boy, if it turns out that they're not classifying these things correctly, then we can do some type of rough calculation to see which one of us is, or which side is actually conducting the most amount of political violence. And if it's the
So to be
case
clear,
in
you're not
modernity,
agreeing
yeah, go
with
ahead.
this last year because it is a methodology you agree with, because any of the things that are demonstrated are true. It just happens to show that you're right. So if it showed the opposite, you would immediately discredit it. So why even call it as a
What are
set
you
of concessions?
talking about? That has nothing to do with what I just said. Can you repeat
You
back to
literally
me?
just said, I
Can you repeat back to me
concede,
my
I guess
position?
what you said I
Yeah.
can concede on this point, but I actually think it's wrong. It just happened to be right in the correct way that I already agreed with.
So then let's go through the study.
So why
so
even
then-
bother pointing out that
Because
last year
wait,
whatsoever?
didn't I
It's
give
not
you a
going to-
qualifier? What was my qualifier? That I actually think that left-wing violence even this year classified is higher. But I would be willing to concede the point at least that in this year it's higher if you do. But we do need to go through the rest of it for the purpose of classification to make a determination if you agree with these classifications. Both of you are unwilling to do it because you don't believe the classifications. You don't believe them.
No, let's go. All right, we can do it, but I promise you by the end of this, you're going to say, well, because the classifications aren't the way I would do it, and I haven't done a comprehensive
I want to make
analysis
sure that the classifications are how you would do
shows
it.
that what I believe is true. Therefore, I discredit the study. I have no other option to show that the left wing is more violent. I just feel it's true because I've seen more of it, and that's the end of the debate. Like, it's going to be a huge waste of time. But let's do it. Let's go through it.
Yeah, and I want to mention this too, Soypill, before we jump into this. Andrew, in his opening statement, said all the claims will hinge on studies. Soypill will likely tell you the truth, and then and he'll bring up all these studies. He's saying all the claims will hinge on the studies. He's dragging us into talk about these particular studies.
The
We're
things
like,
that your
look, we can
arguments
talk
hinge
about
on?
these studies.
The things
We
that
don't
your
wanna
argument
talk about
hinge
these
on.
studies. So the only person here that wants to talk about these studies is Andrew.
The only person here who wants to
Andrew's
talk
just
about your
like-
evidence is Andrew. That's crazy. It's almost like we're in a debate.
I
It's
wanna
almost
talk
like we're in a
about it.
debate
I
or
mean,
something,
the
Vince.
whole study and then get to the part where Andrew says, "Never mind, I don't like it," because I think it's going to be boring.
No,
But yeah, we can do
the
it.
whole-
The conversation. I mean,
okay,
the
well,
evidence-
let's just
the
try it
only
this way. If
evidence
you don't
I
want to go
think-
through it, maybe we can just try it this way, Soy. Would you agree with me? Would you agree with me that there's going to be problems in the methodology of classification that you likely aren't going to agree with in that study? Yes or no?
I think every study is going to have at least something that I would say, I'm not sure about that, but I would still use it as an aggregate and showing what is happening, unless there was something
Why?
major. For example,
Why
if
would
they
you
said-
do that? That's
Well, here,
insane.
listen, Andrew, because I want to give you this. This is a concession, all right? If this study, and this doesn't do this, but if this study said right-wing violence includes something like Wahhabist Islamic terror attacks, even though that I would acknowledge why they might say that, because it's like, oh, well, because you can classify this as right.
I bet you it does, actually. I bet you it does include Muslim terror attacks. I bet you anything.
It actually has an entire other classification for this, if you read it, that is religious extremism that is not left or right, and there's a good reason for that. because you
Except
can't really
except
say,
in that
oh,
case,
boy, all 3,000 people that died
except in that
9/11,
CS
that's right-wing violence. That would be ridiculous.
Actually, I believe in the CSIS, the way that they come up with right-wing affiliation is through religion. Just so you know.
There are parts of religious extremism that can be classified in this study if you've read it, but not just
Let's go through.
religious extremism.
Yeah, well, this
which
is
its
why.
own other thing.
But this
So,
is
for
the.
example,
Here's
a
the
Christian
okay.
nationalist terrorist attack, like with Dylan Roof, would be a right-wing extremist, but the fucking 9/11 attacks wouldn't be. And that's why I'm saying, if there was a methodology that extreme that said, yep, right-wing includes 9/11, yeah, I would say that's an incredibly flawed study that we can't take seriously. I don't think that exists in here, but if you want to point,
have you read it?
Like,
have you read that study? The Truth?
Yes, I haven't read it word for word, but I have.
And what does that mean, though? Like, how much of it have you read? How much? The truth.
Well, it's like 10 pages. So I've read, like,
come on, dude. Like, here's the thing, man. It's like this is where the disconnect is. How are we supposed to even have a good faith debate over which side is conducting the most amount of violence? If it's the case that the thing which you're banking on, which is evidence from these organizations, you haven't even read the very studies that you're banking on to show your position.
About it were the methodology, how they classified the different types of violence, and specifically looked out for major egregious.
You should bitch about it. You haven't read it. You haven't read it.
The one I just mentioned. Those are the things I did read through. Something I didn't read through would
wait,
be, for
not
example,
in 10 pages. You didn't. You lying sack of shit. You didn't read through it in 10 pages. You read through the methodology in 10 pages.
What?
You just said you read through the methodology in 10 fucking pages, dude. Give me a fucking break.
The entire thing is 10 pages. I'm not. If there's a more in-depth version of this study, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the domestic terrorism brief that has been released that describes the methodology, the classifications, that shows the graphs.
Link it over. Let's take a look at it.
This is my problem with debates like these, where you introduce a study and you use that as your key point of evidence, because we really haven't seen many evidence coming from our opponents other than this study. And all this study shows is look at this number. Look at this number here. I'm almost finished with my point. Look at this number here. Oh, look, my study shows this number. Let's not look into the number. The number is just what it says. And no matter what the classifications are, the methodology, no matter what the situation is. Well, okay, so here's my proposition. When we're analyzing which party is more responsible, we have to see the ideological backing and the influence that the party has had over the actions and mental states that cause these people to commit these violent acts. And we should also look at the impact that they have had. And when you look throughout history, modern history, the largest scope and scale of political violence has occurred from the left. Your presidents aren't being shot at. Your influencers aren't being shot at. You don't have conservative college campuses that are throwing riots and protests.
By your own metrics, anti-Biden point to these people that tried to shoot Trump as having downstream messages disseminated by Democratic politicians. For example, Thomas Crooks, which I still don't know if we've
donated to Act Blue. He donated to Act Blue.
Did he not also?
Where did that show the rhetoric?
Party and or vote for them? Can you show that the rhetoric is contributing to this? He also had plans to shoot Joe Biden. I don't know if you knew about that, but the whole point is
I can tell you the Charlie Kirk assassin etched in.
Well, hold on. Do you see? Okay, you just moved off the point completely, John. Please answer the question, because
I think when you donate to Act Blue, that's a
very how the ideology is influencing this. But if you're going to point to something like, hey, our presidents got shot at, it's like, okay, how is this happening? For example, if it was a Ukrainian person, I think there's someone pro-Ukrainian person was the one waiting for him on the golf course. I think there's a much closer connection that you could draw there, showing, hey, Trump doesn't care about Ukraine. He's a Russian puppet, blah, blah, blah. You could make a good argument there. But the Thomas Crooks one, I just don't see how that is somehow coming down.
The argument is based off of the existence of the shootings, or rather than the non-existence of the shootings on the left. We have our people who are being shot and killed. He also had plans to shoot Joe Biden. So by that same logic, you could say that. Okay. Yeah, your people aren't being shot and killed. You have all these slogans that are etched into the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk. You have Destiny, who's not condemning the killing of Charlie Kirk. You have the guy who donated to Act Blue, who shot Donald Trump. I don't see Joe Biden being shot at. I don't see Kamala Harris being shot at.
Ignoring that guy that you were talking about who tried to shoot Donald Trump and missed and died was also planning to shoot Joe Biden. If you're going to keep bringing up that example, but again, if you're going to keep bringing up these
this is fucking crazy, dude.
This even falls into specifically. I don't know if these three things, by the way, were especially not the ones that didn't happen this year, but the ones that happened this year, as per the study, if they're classified as left-wing violence, are included and are showing that there is more left-wing death this year specifically. That's just true. That's based on this study. So if you want to stop there for some reason, yeah, okay, we can just talk about 2025. But ultimately, we're looking at the totality, and you claim
we don't want to just stop there.
It's because of the Nazism, and yet all these people were calling Trump Hitler fascist back in 2016. JD Vance was even doing it, and somehow this wasn't happening nearly to the same degree, and the right wing was much higher in those years. Why is this somehow now different in this year?
The protests were very violent. When
well, because you spent 4 years under Joe Biden saying that you had thwarted a threat to democracy and ousted a Nazi from office, and now he sees power. Now he sees power again, right? Now he sees power.
You're very much missing the point of my statement. The point of my statement was to look at the scale and scope and impact of the things. The right has suffered more significant losses, damages, and impact that has been perpetuated by those with close ties to the left. And so, like, I didn't just cite the shootings of Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk. That's why I also cited the riots, which again caused over $2 billion of damages. You had dozens of people killed. You have officers who are damaged.
Because you'd have to show that every single
Black Lives Matter was not fundamental to liberal ideology.
Directly tied to BLM and trying to do a political movement, and not a bunch of rioters doing stuff to do fucking rioting for no reason. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that none of this was because of BLM ideology. There were plenty of people that were like, I think specifically, if you look at the police station burning down, that's probably political violence. I doubt those people were just burning random fucking.
Okay, what do you think about the Minnesota Freedom?
No, man, they just wanted to loot the vending machines, bro. They just wanted to loot the vending machines. You know,
in the police.
What do you think about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez talking about social justice when all these Antifa and BLM riots are going on? Like, what does that say?
So I've got a few statements from Kamala Harris. For example, by the way, so when that whole incident happened with the attempt on Trump's life, Kamala Harris said, "I'm deeply disturbed by the possible assassination to perform President Trump today. As we gather the facts, I will be clear. I condemn political violence. We all must do our part to ensure that this incident does not lead to more violence." Now, we already know Andrew Wilson has already said that these are dog whistles. So I'm sure that this won't be satisfactory. But there was also when she made a statement regarding the Charlie Kirk incident. She said, "Let me be clear. Political violence has no place in America. I condemn this act, and we all must work together to ensure this does not lead to more violence." So again, when we talk about the Charlie Kirk incident, we talk about President Trump, we could talk about, I think there were...
Oh, no,
I could look for and see.
Statement.
Yeah, I'm working as best as I can with what I got. So excuse me if the internet goes out.
It's better. I mean, it's better than it was. The thing is like the only frustrating thing is you know, I want to hear what you're saying, and you cut.
No, I appreciate that.
You cut in and out, so.
You should type out every statement before you say it. So as soon as you cut out.
No, so there's several different. There's several different bits of the where you see Kamala Harris and numerous other high-ranking profile Democrats again condemning these things.
Yeah, so Andrew Wilson did talk about the dog whistles. I do think there's a lot of that involved, but it's not just the dog whistles, right? You also are responsible for the climate that you create that causes these things. The difference between Democrats and Republicans is that when George Floyd died, you caused all these riots. When Charlie Kirk died, we hosted prayer vigils and that called for peace.
Yeah, because ultimately you guys have actually nothing to be
when you have Kamala Harris raising bails for these violent rioters, the Minnesota Freedom Fund, you should look it up. When you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying that we should respect social justice, when you have people standing in front of fires, calling arson and the riots mostly peaceful, and you have all these CNN pundits, MSNBC pundits saying all these things, you're very responsible for the ongoing political climate that causes people to engage in actions of this sort. And I think it's very clear that when we have these cases, you can't just bypass it by saying Kamala Harris condemned it, because Kamala Harris
This guy gave me a 10-page pamphlet that has all the studies linked at the end. I can't wait to shove that right up his ass.
I'm actually curious, like just on that one thing specifically, and this is not a gotcha. If you could show me specifically.
That means it's a gotcha, by the way. Don't listen to his bullshit
like, if
lies.
You could show me specifically that she's like saying, here's the bail fund for someone who like committed an illegal act. And like in the same way, I would say, I don't think these things are proportional, but they are very similar that Donald Trump would pardon someone who like did seditious conspiracy.
I've got the tweet.
I think that bailing out, no, I know she retweeted it, but like, I want to know like the crime specifically that these people did. Because if it was like what Vince was talking about in LA and hey, they got arrested or whatever for not leaving an area, I don't think that is equal to saying that this person is endorsing violence. But if you're paying for the bail of someone who burned down a police police car or some shit like that, I could say that there's a okay argument there. I think the problem is here that you're saying, I mean, you said this in your opening, John, that the right always condemns this. The right doesn't participate in this at all. And I just think this is so ridiculous. I mean, to be fair, I know Andrew did say that, yeah, obviously the right's going to be part of some, crazy rhetoric or whatever. But every time we show you an example of a right winger, like, for example, this is a Donald Trump quote. If he says, "It is the enemy from within. They're very dangerous. They're Marxists, they're communists and fascists. They're dangerous for our country." Speaking about like the Democrats, right? Like this is somehow not at all responsible for any right-wing violence committed against the people who he's condemning completely as the totality. He's grouping this not as these small left-wing fringe people like you try to say when it's right-wing. He says it's the Democratic Party. Stephen Miller says the Democratic Party is the party of extremists. And somehow this is not at all responsible for not toning down the temperature.
It doesn't
like,
look. I haven't actually seen.
Analysis.
I haven't actually
Show me an
seen.
example.
Yeah, show me the example of the links between that rhetoric and any of this so-called right-wing political violence. You can't. Not only that, just to refute this easily, Kamala Harris in October 2024 said that Donald Trump's a fascist during a CNN town hall, stating his actions and rhetoric echoed fascist leaders. She reiterated this in her speeches, linking it to his admiration for authoritarian figures, Hitler. All right, this is what she was claiming. So this is the woman who's running for president, and she's your party leader at this point, right? Your party's leader. She's running for president.
Violence tied to this, please.
So the thing is like when,
no,
of course. Hey, fascist, catch! Hey, fascist, catch!
Okay, so again, so you think this?
Hey, fascist, catch! Come on, man!
Was inspired by Kamala Harris saying that Trump was a fascist.
I think that the totality of the Democrat machine is working in unison for the message that Donald Trump and the right wing are a bunch of Nazi fascists, and that yes, she contributed to that rhetoric greatly. And I don't see the same thing on the right at all. I don't see a unified message in the party saying that left wingers are a bunch of evil fascists who are just trying to kill everybody. That's not what I see. What I see instead is I see on the right. They condemn political violence basically always. I don't see the fractional groups.
No.
I don't see the fractional groups like you do with Antifa, things
Here,
like
I got
this,
a few-
who are, shut up, let me finish, who are
Go
doing
ahead.
these cell organizations for violence, who are linked to NGOs, who many of these NGOs are also donors to the DNC. So on the one hand, they're funding the riots, and on the other hand, they're also funding the DNC. It's crazy.
clear.
How does that work?
I mean, if we still haven't gone through the CSIS, but if you want to talk about like small unit cells of right-wing violent terror, like the
Let's.
Boogaloo Boys, like the 3% Michigan Militia, like the Proud Boys, like the people who
Let's get
planned
into
the
all of them.
seditious conspiracy on January 6th. I think it's kind of weird that they're running away and saying this doesn't exist.
Let's start.
on the
Well,
right.
let's start
When
with the
Donald
Proud
Trump
Boys.
can say
What
something like,
terrorism
"Hey,
did the Proud Boys do?
stand
What
back and
terrorism did the
stand
Proud
by,"
Boys?
Because he can't fucking
What
condemn them.
terrorism
That's
did the
insane.
Proud Boys do? What?
What, trying to overthrow the government? And
No,
kidnap
no,
politicians
no,
on
no, no,
January
no,
6th?
no, no,
Yeah.
no.
Seditious conspiracy,
Before,
yeah.
hang on. Before January 6th, these people were allocated by Democrats as being some sort of like domestic terror cell, that they were evil right-wing extremists. What did they do? Except beat up
Why are
Antifa
you
members who
moving
were
away
showing
from the
up,
thing
who
that I'm
were
describing, which
because
is the
what I'm
dead to
showing you,
rights?
what I'm
Seditious
showing, because I'm showing you
conspiracy
something important. What's important is that long before J6, and Gavin McInnes starts the Proud Boys, okay, and what they were, the Proud Boys were doing everything they could to stop Antifa from beating people in the fucking streets, and they did
Yeah.
they
And
actually did a
you know
pretty
what
good.
Gavin
Hang on,
McInnes
let me finish,
proud the
bro.
Proud Boys?
Because otherwise they were threatening to put him in prison.
No, it's because they got too racist and extreme for him, and even he couldn't handle it.
No, it's because there was political pressure which was put on Gavin. I know Gavin. Do you?
No, I don't know, guys.
Yeah, I do. And what happened there, I have a whole interview about it. You can go watch it on the Crucible. And so the thing is like, look, that's not what happened at all. What happened is there was a great amount of political pressure which was put on McInnes, trying to say that he was a terrorist, and that's what they were trying to move towards with leftist rhetoric. And he was getting
Think he would've stuck around
he
during
was
the
getting
seditious conspiracy thing or
deplatformed.
no?
Hang on, he was getting deplatformed everywhere. And for what? All the Proud Boys did was protect people from Antifa fucking lunatics. It's all they
It's a
did.
really interesting way of framing it, considering I could say, well, all the Antifa was doing was protecting the other people from the crazy white supremacist Proud Boys, but in reality, you've got two.
They
pretty
were
extreme
actually
political
attacking. Look at
groups
what happened in
beating
New
the shit
York.
out of each
No,
other.
that's not what
And you're not
happened.
gonna try to say
Look
that,
at what
oh,
happened
the
in New York. They were
great Proud
attacking
Boys
random
just
people.
doing the great things, you know. Like,
Do
this
you
is obviously
do you
something
realize
that's
that in a fight you usually have initiators, you have aggressors? It's true you can have mutual mutual combat. But in the cases that I saw with Proud Boys, it was not
did you see
mutual.
a bunch of videos?
It was not.
Crazy.
No, it wasn't just
Is that- is that
videos.
a study
It's
of how many
official.
videos?
There's official reports on it, like what happened in New York. They were attacked and defended themselves. They got arrested because they won. That's it. They just won. Like they won the fight, and so they get arrested. It's fucking crazy.
About all the Proud Boys and all the violence they've ever committed.
Show me
Somehow they
yours.
just, like,
Show me yours. And
stumbled
by
in-
the way,
Well, my evidence is that they committed fucking seditious.
oh well, that's
conspiracy
nice.
on
They were
January
all
6th. I think
pardoned
that's
for
pretty
it,
fucking
fucker.
insane.
They were
So
all
it's-
pardoned for it, fucker.
Yeah, they all
Sorry.
got pardoned, which I believe is an endorsement for them to do something.
Well,
like that again.
I think what it is that
So-
there was a witch hunt that was going on, and once the president came
which
in,
dude, they texted
they
each other.
pardoned him.
Make no mistake, we did this. It's the most dead to
Did
rights
what?
fucking. They did this shit.
they did what?
Planned
though?
to overthrow the fucking.
No, they didn't
government.
plan to overthrow the government. It's
I
ridiculous.
know they suck because
So-
they're fucking lame.
They didn't plan to
You're
overthrow
acting
the
like
government,
it's
and
a
not
witch
only
hunt.
that,
All right,
let
guys,
me
we're
just
gonna
point
go in
this.
there and walk in
Yeah,
the lines.
and
That's
let me
what we're
point
doing,
this out to
Proud
you
Boys.
so that you note they were all pardoned. You got nothing. And you can't
Oh.
point to anything pre J6 either that they actually did wrong,
Well,
and yet
I
they're
didn't
considered a
mean
violent,
whether or
right?
not Proud
So
Boys were
hang on,
violent
you
pre
used them as an
J6.
example. Yes, you
Pretty
did,
fucking
fucker.
bad, though.
You
They
used
got
them as an
indicted and
example
convicted
of a
for
right-wing group.
conspiracy. And your only defense against that
Mhm.
is, well, the guy who told them and wanted them to go do that said that it's okay that they did that. So you have nothing.
What was
As
his
if the
name?
fucking conviction was like some crazy witch hunt when we have text messages
Yeah.
from them saying, yeah, we're doing it. We're
But
doing
yeah,
the crime.
but here's the thing, right? And this is what's really funny. Those text messages, one, in context, actually don't say that. And two, to go through this, these guys were pardoned for anything which would have been considered criminal on J6. Not only that, let's point out that there was left-wing groups who were trying to label them, including the ADL, as being a racist domestic terror group before they were ever doing anything wrong. Most of the groups that you just cited, Boogaloo Boys, there was Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, most of these guys never did a fucking thing wrong, and the left was already claiming that they were domestic terrorists and this type of thing. So you're just lying through your teeth, and you get the timelines all
so
botched.
when they beat up people and do terrorism, it's always because the other people did it to them first. And I know this because I saw videos of it, just to be clear.
Show me an example to the contrary, then, fucker. Show me an example to the contrary.
And I have a study here that's claiming that some of these people, because you can go through the methodology, I bet you'd be really upset. And this is why I really didn't want to pick through it. It mentions the Boogaloo Boys.
I'm sure it does.
I bet you'd be like, well, they've never done anything violent, but I would need to show something. You would need to show me that these people are not committing an act of terrorism. You'd have to show me some sort of thing that every single time they've been arrested for violence, it's always self-defense. And if otherwise, I just have no reason to believe that, like, oh, well, I'm saying that these terrorist groups aren't terrorist groups. Therefore, the study is invalid.
No, I'm saying that the methodology for the study that you didn't even read, you gave me a 10-page pamphlet which sources all of the actual supporting material at the end of it, right? You didn't even fucking read it. You still don't even want to go through the actual methodology because you're concerned that it's going to demonstrate. You're concerned that it's going to demonstrate that you and I both know the same thing, that most of these things which are classified as right-wing violence, you wouldn't agree with. And so the thing is so funny here is like, and even then, even if I granted this to you, the funniest part of all of this is how fucked your timeline is. How are these people going to go after clubs like the Proud Boys and things like this, the Oath Keepers, before they ever did anything wrong and preemptively label them as terror groups? And then suddenly,
fair,
of course, J6 happens. We always knew it, guys. We always knew it.
That's the absolute worst thing they've ever done out, and now you're claiming they've never done anything violent except for
What, the worst thing that you mean the thing that they were pardoned for?
I mean, you've seen a bunch of videos.
The worst thing that they were pardoned for?
The worst thing they were pardoned for.
They were pardoned for it.
Oh yeah, I like how you're smugly like, gotcha, dude. The
They
guy
were
who told
pardoned.
them to go do it, pardon them. Like that's kind of the whole issue.
Wait a second. I'm really confused. Were the Proud Boys pardoned for J6?
You didn't.
Can you have false convictions which you are pardoned for by the chief law enforcement officer, for instance? Is that why they have pardon power?
Incredibly corrupt pardons, and I would.
Is that why they have pardon power? They have pardon power for a reason. It's specifically to stop when there are witch hunts like this.
I want to say this. I want to say this.
My authoritarian leader is allowed to pardon anyone for anything if it helps him out.
Oh yeah, he's an authoritarian. He's an authoritarian leader.
Let Vince go. He hasn't spoken in a
guys,
while.
Yeah. Here's the crazy thing I'm hearing about this. Right, is so we have two contrasting things happening right now. We have Gavin Newsom, who, when the protests happened, said, I condemn them. It should be peaceful. And they were arrested. They were not released. They were arrested. Now, they
For
may have
what?
been released on bond, but for
We're
various
Doing
different
violent
charges.
crimes against
Hold on.
police
Hold on.
officers.
No, I'm not done. I'm not done
Let's
talking, Andrew.
finish
I know.
Lincoln's
I'm glad. But see, here's the crazy thing about this
Okay.
is, as Andrew's laughing, he doesn't
Mhm.
realize that there's a other contrast to this, which is Donald Trump, who has not condemned, quite frankly, the Jan 6 things. And even if he did, it's contrasted by the fact that he actually pardoned them. So if he actually cared about that, and he did care about political violence on his side, then he would probably let the justice system work its way through. But we know that Donald Trump doesn't really care. In fact, he's actually called Kamala Harris a fascist, a communist, a Marxist. We've seen Stephen Miller saying the same thing, echoing the same thing. Yet I haven't heard anybody mention anything about Donald Trump saying those words. Because it's okay when the right does it, but when the left does it, somehow now it's all sorts of crazy.
Yeah.
right?
So you have
There's
the
lots of lies.
I'll-
There's lots of lies
I'll
there.
let
I mean,
John
first
Paul-
of all,
Totally.
Where's the lies?
You
Yeah,
you
tell me
claim,
lies.
well, you said he didn't condemn it. January 7th, he released a statement saying, I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem.
So outraged,
I
he pardoned
immediately
everybody.
deployed
That
the
makes
National
sense.
I
Guard.
thought he
federal
didn't condemn
law
him 5 seconds ago, you lying
Oh,
gutless
guys,
fuck.
guys, both of you,
Is
let John
that,
Paul finish.
is that condemning? Is that condemning?
I don't call it
violence?
condemning if he ends up, and I don't call it condemning if he ends up after the fact pardoning every
Okay, do
single.
you
I
know
think
how
it's
much
a
violence
hollow,
actually was
hollow,
on January
hollow
6th? Do you know how
condemnation.
much violence actually was there?
There was
So there's
probably, I
6
think there was over
violence,
100 people
6
that were
full
charged.
violence.
There was about 170 people charged with assaulting a law enforcement officer.
Were any of
I
them
think
charged with
there's- I think there's
insurrection, fuckhead?
160.
Nope,
No,
seditious-
were-
none of them were charged with insurrection, fuckhead. Not a single one.
170 people were
No
charged with
one's-
assaulting.
Were there
law
any of them
enforcement
charged with
Andrew, you're
insurrection?
boxing shadows right now. No one's talking about
Yeah, he is.
insurrection.
Yes,
A lot of
that's
them
what you
already
guys just
served.
said. You just said it was a seditious insurrection 5 seconds ago.
No, it's a seditious conspiracy. That's not the same thing.
Oh,
as
so it
insurrection.
wasn't an insurrection?
I said it was seditious.
So what? I
conspiracy.
just want to be clear. Then it wasn't an insurrection.
I'd say that any definition.
I don't know what
that
this
I
has
use
to do with
insurrection,
any of the
you want
I just
me
want to
to
make sure that
say
we're
no.
clear.
I wanna make
Was
sure
it an
this has nothing to
insurrection
do
or
with the
not?
conversation.
Was it
Nah,
an
it was a
ins-
seditious
this
conspiracy.
has
I
nothing to
Okay,
do with the
so it wasn't an
conversation.
insurrection. Got it.
There's
has
nothing
nothing to do with the
inconsistent
conversation.
about this. You can completely condemn the violence that occurred, which
And then
Donald
pardon them
Trump did.
afterwards. Yeah, that makes a lot
And
of
you
sense.
can
That makes a
pardon
lot
That
of
sounds
sense.
like a
people
dog
who
whistle to me,
believe-
John. I don't know.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, it sounds like a
he's
dog whistle.
speaking out of
If
both
you
sides of
believe
his
they
mouth.
should
On
be
one
pardoned,
side, he
if you
said
believe they
condemn.
should
On
be
the other side, he
pardoned.
said you
Well,
guys
how would
are
you
just
know?
saying
You
all
won't
these
let him
other
finish
things.
what he's saying.
Everyone, I'm going to let John Paul go first, and then Soy, you can respond.
Now, my understanding is you have people who are outside of the Capitol who are recording it. Some people who are even let inside the building, almost walking in like a tour, not really causing much violence, who go and serve years of jail time, along with other people who maybe, like, if they were violent, they also served jail time. And you can pardon those people on the basis that you think that they were either serving a term that was way too long, which was the case when you have many people who were simply trespassing, for instance, spending years and years of jail time and fines, and you can pardon those people while also saying that the violence was absolutely outrageous. And Vincent, you said that Donald Trump never condemned the January 6th attack, when I just
I think
read
it's
to
a
you the
Holocaust,
statement he
sure.
released right after, calling it a heinous attack, saying what he did to try to stop it, and condemning
And
the
then what did he do
violence.
afterwards,
John,
John?
how can
What did he
you
do later?
possibly
How many
say
years
that-
afterwards?
Wait, hold on. I
4
thought I
years
got to
later?
respond.
Hold on,
Corbin,
hold on.
you
Soy's
can
next.
respond.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Soy's
how
next.
can you claim that he thinks the violence is outrageous if he thinks they did nothing wrong and pardon them for it? If he's pardoning everyone, like, I agree, there are people in there that maybe shouldn't be in jail for 20 years for trespassing or whatever ridiculous thing, but someone who's committing seditious conspiracy, planning to overthrow the government, someone who, like, beat up police officers, any of these violent rioters are also pardoned. How can you possibly say that he thinks that violence is outrageous if he thinks you should get zero punishment for it?
He did not pardon every single individual, but additionally, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to steel man your position. I'm going to assume
Okay.
that you are completely correct in what you're saying. There's two main problems. The one main problem is that whenever we give actions done by Kamala Harris and other politicians, we see you and Vincent constantly is saying, like, oh, well, she condemned the action, so it's okay.
Wait, John,
and that's
to
the
be
only
clear,
proof.
in
That's
good
the
faith,
only
I asked you
defense.
this. Can you show me the person that she retweeted in this fund? And if they did something that was a violent action, I actually agree with you. I would say that is the closest thing that you have shown me to a left winger saying tacitly that violence is okay by bailing them out. I've actually said that. For all these other things, every single left-wing politician is saying this is awful, we condemn it, and their actions are not indicating of anything otherwise. They're not pardoning violent people. But if you do show me that specific fund and the specific person and what they did was violent, yeah, I'd say, yeah, that is actually tacitly endorsing violence. And I wouldn't agree with that. But that is in totality so
Wait a
far
second.
fewer than
I just
all
want to
these
make sure.
examples
Hang
we
on.
talked about on the
Can I
right.
make sure I got this right? So if I show you a bunch of tweets from left-wing politicians post Kirk's death, who literally strawman his positions and say that he was a racist fascist, you don't consider that to be some sort of like, I don't
I'd
know.
say that's an accurate description of objective reality.
Okay, so the thing is like that's not them basically giving a pass, right?
No, it's
No,
not because
of
they
course
don't
not.
need
You
to
wanted
give
an
an
So to
example.
hang
They
on,
don't
so to
say
get
that's
this
the
right,
only option to
hang on.
give.
I just want to make sure so I get this right. So when it comes to Charlie Kirk, they can condemn the violence out of one side of their mouth, and then on the other side, they can say that, well, but he was a racist, misogynist, Nazi, right? But John Paul, when he brings up, well, okay, Trump can condemn the violence, right? But also
can
give them
pardon
pardons,
violence.
but also give them pardons later on because he thought that the prison sentences were far too stiff. Why is it that you think that argument would work against John, but not against you in the same
You would have to show
context?
me left-wing politicians pardoning people committing violence,
Here,
which
you
is why
want an
I gave
example,
up the
right?
example. If you're showing her saying, let's bail out people who committed violence, I would say, yes, that is pretty similar and something I would not be okay with, versus people accurately describing his ideology, which you say it can only lead to violence, which you actually had to caveat and say, well, it's only going to lead to violence because although everyone really understands that's not necessarily the only way you can deal with a fascist, a bunch of crazy people are going to get the wrong idea. But the crazy people on the right, when Donald Trump calls us fascists, I mean, they don't listen to him. Like, I just don't understand how you think these two things are even close to equal.
Okay, so if
that's
you want
not
an
an
example,
argument.
the
That was
direct
just
example-
prattling.
Hold on.
The
No, you just
direct
didn't
direct
understand it. I
example was
understand.
Kamala Harris promoted the Minnesota Freedom Fund,
Mhm.
and which was set to bail out protesters.
Mhm.
And among those, you have George Howard, who was bailed out on August 6th,
Okay.
who was arrested on a domestic violence charge. And then later that month, on August 29th, he was arrested again, accused of murder in a shooting. And so you have Kamala Harris retweeting the Minnesota Freedom Fund and telling people to donate to it.
You don't have to
to
explain
bail
further.
out
I
people
completely
like this.
agree. I think that was incredibly irresponsible of Kamala Harris. I think that contributed. I could say you could even tie this directly to her and other politicians who retweeted this stuff for all of the violence that came out of anyone bailed out by that fund. I would say ideologically consistent. That is not okay. In the same way that Joe Biden mass pardoned these like a bunch of drug dealers who may now go out and do more crime. I think that is awful.
And
But
his
if we're gonna
son?
talk about what?
And his son.
Well, I don't know if
And
I
his
think
son?
his son's reformed. His son is reformed. I don't think he's ever going to commit another crime.
Yeah.
right? I think he's good. All right. Hunter Biden is a
meth
straight shooter.
Biden, meth Biden.
2028. Okay,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
totally straight shooter.
Uh-huh.
But the problem is, if we're looking,
That's
at
not.
this
That
as a
wasn't corrupt though, right? That was
No, I think it was. I
Oh,
think it
okay.
was. That's the whole point.
But
is
you
we're able
voted
to
for.
call
But
out
you
our own
voted for him
fucking
anyway. But you did vote for Biden, right? And he would have
Yeah,
voted.
it's called. I'm able to make an analysis. Of
Yeah.
which
Would you have
appears
voted? Would
absolutely
you have
worse.
voted for him for a second term post him pardoning
I would
Hunter?
vote for Obama for a 5th term. Actually, in fact, I'm voting.
Wait,
for
Yeah,
Obama
yeah.
for
Without the
28
trolling,
when
can
he
you just answer my question? If he
Oh
had
yeah, it's
pardoned,
not trolling when we're talking about fucking political violence, and now we're going
Yeah.
about Hunter Biden's son and all the crimes.
well,
he's
I'm just
doing.
looking for
There's lots of the fucking
consistency.
weeds
I'm
about
just
this.
looking
So
for
what I see
consistency.
here- what I see
Well, yeah,
here,
but every
and
time I
wanna-
try to
wanna
pry
really
you for
highlight this.
consistency, you
I
have to
really
keep
want to
running
highlight
away.
this.
I've
Well,
answered all of your
actually, no,
questions, dude.
I'm not cherry picking. I
Okay,
just,
okay,
I want
okay,
you to
I'm gonna
have
let
somebody
Soy
that
go.
mention
agrees
this.
with me.
I have to mention this. Okay, so this is the biggest concession of the debate.
Yeah, because
Kamala
we're good
Harris
faith enough to say
actively-
this
Hold
is a
on,
bad
sorry, let
thing.
John-
You
let
will
John
not
Paul
say
finish.
this,
I
by
understand.
the way.
Let John
You
Paul
will
finish.
agree with my premise. You will
Okay,
not
I
say
wanna
this about
predicate.
Trump,
I
will
want to
you?
predicate.
You're gonna
I
filibuster, right?
I really appreciate the consistency, and I appreciate that you're willing to concede this. I'm saying this is the biggest, most substantial concession of the debate because the Antifa and BLM riots of 2020 was the largest scope and scale of political violence, sustained political violence that we've seen in modern U.S. history. And when you have the vice president, the running vice president, and then the future leader of the party posting Minnesota Freedom Fund to bail out people like George Howard.
When was
That
George
is
Howard
absolutely
Shut your
released?
fucking
insane.
mouth. Let him finish, Vince.
No.
August
Whoa,
6th.
no, I'm not gonna-
August
I'm not
6th,
gonna
he was
now.
bailed out.
I'm not
August
gonna
6th, he was
take
bailed
words
out.
from you.
I'm not gonna do it.
John,
I'm not-
John,
I'm not gonna
John,
do it.
John, When was it, John?
Andrew,
John,
let John Paul go.
John, let me ask you something.
Vince, just let John finish his thing, and then you
Okay.
can ask your question.
All right, I respect you, Corbin. Good.
Yeah, Vince.
Okay,
Shut up.
Shut the fuck up, Andrew.
He's one of many. I encourage you to look into the reports themselves. The fact is that Kamala Harris posted and encouraged people to donate to the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which was an which was an organization that was bailing out these violent people. That's one example. If I looked into it more, and I'm free to look into it more after this debate and give you all the examples of all the people who were arrested under violent charges and how that is directly that's monumentally impactful when Kamala Harris is the one posting this in the face of the Antifa and BLM riots, which are burning down cities, injuring officers, killing people. Yeah, once again, $2+ billion of damage. Somehow we're going to completely ignore the $2+ billion of damage when we're talking about responsibility and political violence. We have an actor in the mainstream left-wing political landscape who is functioning in such a way that is endorsing, rationalizing, excusing, tolerating the violence that we have seen. You can say that she condemns it, but when she condemns it and posts
And that's
the
the
Minnesota
debate. We
Freedom
win.
Fund, you have a glaring contradiction on your
We
hands.
win.
So real quick, Vince, I
Yeah,
have
so
to answer this.
we
because
win.
We're talking, you're right, about political violence. So, for example, the specific instance you say, which I said was bad. Yeah.
So, dude, I promised Vince he could go, and he hasn't spoken.
I just
to you.
want to
Alright, go ahead.
respond to this one quick
Yeah, just-
thing. I
just
just
let
want to
Vince
make a
go, yeah.
small little asterisk to what John Paul is saying about George Howard. George Howard was released in 2021, a year after the tweet from Kamala Harris. It had nothing to do with the BLM protests. So again, at the time, Kamala Harris had no idea about this George Howard thing because it didn't even exist yet. So again, you want to bring up the George Howard incident. This is just a proxy of the actual bail fund itself and what it became, not what it was at the time in which Kamala Harris supported it. I just
I'm
want
not
to make that
making-
asterisk.
Yeah, I'm not making the claim that Kamala Harris specifically wanted to bail out George Howard. I'm making the claim that she's supporting a group that is functioning in such a way that is bailing out people like George Howard.
After.
So to be
After
Right,
clear,
that
she
is the
endorsed it.
function
Bailing
of the group that she is promoting.
Yeah, that's
Right,
not what's
and-
in. That's
and
not
I
being
wanna-
contested, Vince.
Yeah, hold on, Andrew.
Okay,
I do
let's
want to.
Soy.
I want to grant it. Let's just say that she helped promote this fund, and one of the many people, for example, I would want to see like to what degree these people are being bailed out for, like the protesters who are arrested in LA being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or doing violence, like throwing Molotov cocktails or burning down police cars or whatever. That's pretty important.
Can we
as to why
concede-
they're doing this?
Go-
But let's be
okay.
clear. Hold on, let's be clear because
Okay.
I do want to say this. Let's just say that she specifically did this, and this guy was released because of this bail fund,
Yeah.
like the day after the tweet.
Okay.
What's happening here is the political violence that is happening afterwards would have to be the downstream effects of how she's doing this. Now, I think the chilling effect, or I guess the opposite of the chilling effect, is, hey, protesters, if you get arrested, we're going to let you go. This is what I'm conceding and agreeing. Yeah, that is something that could potentially like encourage people to go out and riot and protest again in a violent way if those violent people are the ones being released. But this guy, in the example you like cited, he didn't go out and do another political violence. He went out and fucking killed some random person, which has absolutely nothing to do with BLM. So you would have to show, one, when you keep citing, oh, well, this BLM thing, it's all this billions of dollars of damage, which was bad, by the way. I'm not trying to say that was okay. It's somehow downstream of political violence when you can say that a lot of this was rioting and people taking advantage of people protesting. And yeah, it was mostly peaceful, as much as you guys fucking hate that. Just statistically, that's true. But after all that, and me and my good faith willing to say, yeah, if she does this and lets them out, that's potentially a chilling effect and letting people go and do it more. You will never, ever say the same about Trump pardoning violent January 6 people. Why not?
Yeah. So
I actually did grant that to you.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did steel man
Oh,
your
that's
argument. I
fucking
said even if that's the case,
No,
in
that's no,
comparison to
don't
the large-
steel man it. I'm literally saying this is not a steel man. This is me
Mm-hmm.
admitting I think that if Kamala Harris is saying, hey, protesters, it's okay if you go do violence, in some ways, if they release violent protesters, will kind of give the signal to certain other people that they might be able to commit violence for. And I don't think that's okay. I'm not asking you to steel man me. I'm saying, do you think that Donald Trump pardoning violent people is going to then encourage them to go and
so
do
I would
violence
say
again?
I would say that these are distinctly different situations, and so
It's always different.
well,
always
yeah,
different.
I mean,
Always
only when things are different, though. Then they're different because they're not the same, Fitz.
Yeah, it's on the right.
It's
It's
only
on the
because
right,
when
that's
things are
why.
different, though, Fitz. So anyway, here's
Anyways.
why. So you what you're actually trying to argue right now, SOYPILL, is that more people will do political violence because they just don't mind getting in prison for 4 fucking years before they might potentially get a pardon one day. That's fucking crazy, one. And the second issue here, Soy, which is really funny, is he's right. You made the biggest concession of the debate, which is that you guys have now acknowledged that there's bail funds all over the place that do indeed. If you just concede that they're doing this with some people who are violent and bailing them out, right? Show me the right-wing equivalent. Go ahead.
I don't have to show you the right way.
Because there isn't one, you fuckers, you fucking gutless fucks. You lose.
We're specifically talking about one bail fund specifically retweeted one time by one politician, and we're talking about those politicians. And the reason I'm willing to concede that is because I have intellectual consistency. But you guys are like, oh, these people that Donald Trump had tried to overthrow an election for him and got released as soon as he.
How many years in prison did they spend?
Oh, 4 whole years. Well, I guess if Donald Trump
so that's so
we'll never do it again.
So to get this right, hey guys, if you go and you start rioting in the Capitol, right, you'll spend 4 years in prison and maybe one day you'll get pardoned if you're lucky. That's hang on, hey, let me ask the fucking question. Let me ask. Right, you'll spend 4 fucking years in prison, right? And by the way, in horrific conditions in comparison to the crime you're convicted of. Okay, horrific conditions for a lot of these people. You would not have agreed with it, and you guys would be bad faith if you said that you would, with the type of conditions that they got for what it was that they were actually prosecuted for. So the thing here that's funny is like, no, I don't think it's signaling to anybody, hey, if you go, you'll spend 4 fucking years in prison and maybe hopefully one day get a pardon, as opposed to a bail fund which has you out in fucking 2 days. Give me a break.
Well, to be clear, he was out a year later. Not to mention, I don't know if you were listening for that part, but also
no, I'm not saying talking about that specific example. I'm not talking about that specific example.
For 22 years, and that's somehow not enough. And the only reason that he didn't pardon them is either 1, it wasn't politically expedient, and 2, he didn't succeed in overthrowing the fucking election. They probably would have spent a couple months in jail if he actually had.
SOYPILL, how many years do you think they should have spent?
Enrique Tarrio, I don't know. What's the average for seditious conspiracy?
Okay, not him. How about the other ones?
I don't know about the other ones.
Do you only know one?
This is the interesting thing that he mentions.
Specifically pick apart whether or not I know the violent threat for one of these people, and if not, then my entire argument about whether or not these people shouldn't have been pardoned for committing violence is wrong.
Should they have gotten life?
I don't think everyone should have gotten life.
4 years. I mean, 4 years. 4 years, a long time in prison, man.
I'd say 4 years is fair enough.
Come on, 4 years.
There's a massive difference here. The reason why this is also one of the biggest concessions of the debate is because Kamala Harris posted the Minnesota Freedom Front during the riots. What does that say to you? The riots are a sustained large portion of time. Even if I concede everything you're saying about January 6th, that was one day.
We've been trying to let Ben speak.
Democratic election or $2 billion.
His fucking connection sucks. His connection sucks.
Responsibility and impact of the political parties. I am not excusing. Like Andrew said, we completely condemn all and any political violence.
You condemn
which is
January
why it is
6th,
exactly wrong. Which is why it is wrong when during the violent protests and riots of Antifa and BLM, when you're posting bailout funds to help people who are protesting and who are in the riots to get out of jail. Like, what does that say?
So again, you're incapable of understanding that you're conflating protesting, violence, violent crime, and all of the other things that are incorporated in this bail fund.
It's a signal, dude. It's a signal. If she's retweeting a bail fund, it's a signal.
Donald Trump to pardon some of these trespassers. You can't even fucking condemn January 6th. You understand how fucking insane and unhinged and asymmetrical this is. You have made zero concessions, not because you're more right. It's because the only way you can even possibly get into our brains is to say you're steel manning us. When I am saying yes, Kamala Harris potentially releasing a violent criminal or helping in doing that is sending some sort of signal, and that is not okay. And you're like, well, we win because we don't want to actually do the good faith thing and understanding that the January 6th stuff is fucked up. Andrew says 4 years is enough. I guess if you have the fucking brain of a bull,
I just condemned the January 6th violence.
Yes, it must just be because I'm so stupid, Soy. If only I were just a little bit smarter, I would understand that making
like average IQ.
Yeah, that's true. So where does that? So where the fuck does that put you? The thing is so funny here is like you've been trounced every debate we've ever had, and inclling this one. And by the way, the funniest, the funniest, actually, I won every debate. The funniest part. I'm declaring it right now. The funniest part about all this is like, how bad faith can you be when you try to make a comparison between somebody who tweets out a bail fund while rioting's going on, clear signal, and somebody who gives a pardon after evidence comes out over a 4-year course? Like, how are these things even comparable, Soy?
Yeah, because one of these people actually did something that was, I'm going to pardon people that I know did violence against this country and probably deserve to be in jail for what they're doing.
Did
And the
all
other
of them do
person
violence?
treated the
Did
bail
all of them
fine.
do violence?
You haven't even established that a majority of these people were violent. You've pointed out to one person who did a completely non-related political act after, and even then, I'm
We don't
still
have to establish
granting
the
you.
majority of
I'm
them are
still
violent.
granting you. You know what? I don't think that's okay to retweet that bail fund because that might be signaling to people that violence is okay.
I mentioned
And you
earlier.
can't even
I mentioned
fucking
earlier
admit
that even
January
if
Hold on,
6th
hold
was
on.
bad.
John,
That's how
let me
fucking bad
finish.
faith you guys are.
That's
I
you're
mentioned
making
earlier. I literally mentioned earlier that even if it's like, and I will agree, the vast majority of people did not burn down buildings and loot stores or
Would you say
whatever.
that's mostly
There-
peaceful then?
Okay, mostly peaceful means $2+ billion of damages, thousands of officers injured, and many
Can you
more
imagine
killed.
how many billions it would have been if they all
I am
weren't
talking
peaceful?
about the
That'd been
scope
crazy.
in scale, because if we're going to judge things based off of mostly peaceful, then both sides are mostly peaceful. And if you want to judge based on, I mean,
Yeah, I said that at the
based
beginning.
on the scope and impact that these have had, that has been the core framework of the debate. How much impact have these had? How many issues and problems have the left caused as from political violence? You haven't mentioned any that is even remotely close to the destruction we saw in the Antifa.
not even in the
Not
same
even
universe, by the
remotely.
way.
Okay, so I've got some stats for you. So among the felony,
Did you
pleas, we had
chat GPT him? Can you be
172
honest? Did you
pleas
chat
resulting in
GPT
law
him?
enforcement,
Did you chat GPT him, Vince?
130 that pled to obstructing law enforcement, and 69 that pled to assaulting law enforcement with a dangerous or deadly
Okay,
weapon.
I'm going to go into all these with you, but did you chat GPT him? My chat wants to know, Vince.
When we look at seditious conspiracy,
I'm just going to ask you again when you're done.
seditious conspiracy. Soy, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Enrique Antario was either convicted. I think he was convicted of seditious conspiracy. So again, this wasn't as a matter of law. It was settled that they had done this particular crime. And so if Donald Trump was super about trying to uphold the rule of law, then he would have done so.
Anyway, real quick before I answer to this, did you chat GPT all that? The truth. Tell me the truth.
Yeah. So I had to look it up because the Department of Justice nuked that. Actually, if you go to the
So I'm
source of it,
debating
it's
with an
actually
AI.
nuked.
I'm debating with an AI right now.
Wait,
I didn't chat GPT do
I
this.
wonder
I
if the
just
AI is
looked up. It's all with a
hallucinating.
deadly
But
weapon.
Andrew,
Various sentence of anywhere up to 20 years. So 4 doesn't seem like nearly enough. So
yeah, and if Andrew wants to provide anything to go against the 172, you're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah. Okay. Repeat the argument. I'm sorry. I want to get the answer to my question first. Go ahead. What was the argument?
Answer to the argument is that 172 people pled guilty to assaulting law enforcement. You had 130 that pled guilty to obstructing law enforcement during civil disorder, 69 that pled to assaulting law enforcement with a dangerous or deadly weapon, and 4 pled to seditious conspiracy. So by matter of law, they were found guilty and have done those said crimes.
Do you agree with
In
me
which,
that those are federal crimes? Were they federal crimes?
They were federal crimes.
Yeah,
yes.
and what is the prosecutorial victory rate in
Oh
federal
my God.
cases?
See, here's the funny thing about this, right? Is that Andrew Wilson now is going to say, just because Donald Trump can do something doesn't change.
I wasn't going to say any of that.
Look at the contrast,
Bro.
Okay, so what is a federal conviction?
bad
It is
when
pretty.
they
Dude, if you would just calm the fuck down and answer the questions,
federal
we can get through
conviction
it.
rate is significantly high.
Oh, fuck. We lost
Completely a
again.
non sequitur from the fact that Donald Trump himself sat there and said,
Okay, so hang on. Let's back up because you froze. Because you froze, right?
Okay.
The federal conviction rate is significantly higher, right?
Correct.
So if it's the case that federal prosecutors went to these people and told them, and they had their lawyers there, and said to them, if you plead guilty, you're going to get a lesser sentence to this versus if we take you to trial here on this. And then you're going to get a much stiffer sentence. This is usually how that works. Do you agree with me?
By that same logic, then you would say that every single person in the federal court system that pled guilty is also due to have their themselves pardoned as well because it was a faulty conviction.
No, I'm not saying. I'm not even saying it's a faulty conviction. Just calm down, dude. You keep jumping. If you wouldn't jump the how the fuck am I supposed to have a debate with this guy? It's just like,
Andrew. Let me ask you a question. Okay. In the eyes of the law, if you plead guilty, does that mean that you had committed that crime in the eyes of the law?
in the eyes of the law, sure.
Okay, then. So then, if they did commit that,
Does
crime
that mean
in the
though
eyes of the
that
law,
in fact you
Angela,
did?
Angela, let me finish.
Does that mean in fact you did though?
by necessity, it does. In the
No,
court
it
of
does.
the
By
law.
necessity, it doesn't. If I pled
Yes, it
guilty to a rape but never committed the rape, did I commit the rape?
Yes.
I don't even know where to go with that. I'm all done with you, bro. I'm all done with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You work your way.
Okay, I'm done, dude. No, I don't. Listen, that's the best
Vincent.
soundbite I'll ever get from this fucking debate.
That's okay.
Okay,
Andrew, I
it's the
talked
best.
to you on whatever, talking about how much you raped. So I know it was a weird definition of it, but
Yeah. So again, the idea here is that
Really?
Donald
So if
Trump-
your girlfriend woke you up with a blowjob, she's raping you, Soy? I just want to make sure I got that clear.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I got that clear. But anyway,
If I didn't say yes, absolutely.
yeah,
that's
I can't. I don't know where to go with that with you, man. We live in completely
great.
different paradigms here.
That's great. We do, and that's been exhibited throughout this entire thing. So when we look at again Donald Trump saying again, we've seen the left where they say they condemn it, and then they go in and they actually arrest these individuals and let the court system work. its way
Woman,
through
bring
the
me a
courts.
drink.
Now, if you did not commit these
That
crimes, then
must
guess what?
be
There's
the
a ballot
dumbest
process
thing
that you
I've
can
ever
go through
heard in
to
my
approve
life.
Those particular things.
I've heard
And
some
all of a
stupid
sudden, at
shit,
the
but
end,
man.
it's found that there was a faulty conviction or something. Then it should work its way through the courts. If Donald Trump actually cared about the rule of law, if Donald Trump actually did want to condemn political violence, then he would not have pardoned these individuals. But the fact that he did shows exactly where his cards are and where he.
Oh, great.
fucking deep state, man.
I know. The swamp is just muting Vince.
I don't know. To be clear, he agreed to do a debate in a hotel, which I would never do. I don't trust those hotels.
Yeah.
You know how
Yeah.
that's where the fucking Chinese agents get you.
But Vince, could you repeat what you were saying before you cut out?
Oh yeah, no, you're good. All I'm saying is about by necessity, Donald Trump saying that he can, if he did, and it seems like he did, condemned what happened on Jan 6th, then he would have let the court system work its way through the entire process. And if there was something that and again, I want to mention this as well. That's really interesting. You can't sit here and tell me that all 1,600 defendants had a faulty issue. That's absurd, in my opinion, especially in the eyes of the law. If you want to say that there's a few defendants that may have been, had some sort of legal issue, by all means. I'm not opposed to saying that a president is able to pardon who they want to pardon, but all 1,600, and mind you, not just that, we also saw them taking down some of these particular Jan 6 pages on the Department of Justice as well. So again, am I muted? Oh shoot, hold on.
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Oh, I saw SOYPILL talking, so I thought I was muted.
No,
No,
sorry.
that's all I was saying.
My
Yeah,
bad.
that's all I was saying. It's just again, and again, I'm glad SOYPILL asked if you condemned January 6th or not. So,
I mean, by
if
your
you do, you do.
by the standard of justice that you just gave me, we can't even actually have a conversation about this. It's not even possible, just so you know.
What is the standard of justice that I provided?
You just got done saying to me that if a black man was falsely convicted of raping a
Nope.
white woman, that
you-
he in
that's not
fact,
what you're
saying, to be clear.
my turn,
He's changing it now.
my turn, my turn.
He's changing it. He's
Shut up.
He's changing
Hold
it.
on,
Shut up.
let
Go
Andrew
ahead,
go.
That if it was the case that a black man was falsely, and I'll give you a famous case of this, convicted of raping a white woman, that as long as he was convicted, he in fact
Good.
raped the white woman. And so because of this, I can no longer actually even take you seriously as an interlocutor. We can't even have a serious conversation
bad
about
faith.
this.
Go ahead.
How could that be bad faith? It's the same shit.
No, you said
It's-
convicted. You
bad
said
faith.
pled guilty.
I believe he's
Yeah.
using.
So if a black man pled
guilty.
guilty in that case, he did still actually rape her? What? That's the dumbest
is-
shit. What are you talking about? Where do
That
you
would go
guys
against
live? What
the,
reality do you guys live in?
Hold on, don't say you guys, because to be clear, that's not what I think.
I mean, obviously,
That's
Soy,
absolutely
you have to agree with me
right.
that that was the dumbest shit you've ever heard when you said that,
and
right?
So, Andrew, I want to be very clear.
I mean, that was really fucking stupid, even on a scale. I know I'm just
I wanna be
average
very clear.
IQ and stuff, Soy,
So,
but that
I
was
wanna be
really
clear.
fucking
I sat there,
stupid.
Andrew said and
Uh-huh.
agreed with me that in the eyes of the law, if you plead guilty, then you have done that said crime. I understand.
no.
And I did say, and I did
No.
clarify, Andrew, that's great. That's great. No, Andrew, that's great. So I'm going to continue speaking. So what happened is that I also said, if you did not commit said crime and you believe you are falsely accused, there is a process by which you can redeem yourself through that process. If you don't
No,
believe
that's
it,
not what you
and
said, bro. No,
You said
not even in the same
You said,
universe.
did you commit that crime? And yes, you did commit that crime.
No,
in the eyes of the law.
doofus. Here's what
That's what I
here's what
said.
happened.
Go ahead.
I asked if you're convicted for a crime, if you in fact committed
Mm-hmm.
it, and you said as long as it's the case that you were convicted, then you
The
did
fact
in
of the
fact
law,
commit it. No,
yes.
that's not what the question
fact
was.
of the
You
law,
bad
yes.
faith lying.
The fact
Oh my
of law
God.
is yes.
All right.
Okay,
whatever.
clearly he
Fact of
just
law
using
is
the act
yes.
of law. I don't think he's so obtuse that he thinks that you just did it because the law says
Bro,
you
you
did
need
it.
to re-listen to that clip, Soy. You guys are coping real bad on this one.
can't keep saying you. First of all, I didn't say it, but it's very clear what he's saying, and you're like bad faith. Like you.
That I'm the one who's bad faith now. He's backtracking his whole position. I'm the one who's bad faith.
Never. I don't think he really. Do you really think he believes?
Yes, I think that he was caught. I think he was caught in a basic logic trap, and he bit the bullet because he's a dipshit. I think he's a dipshit, and he bit the bullet. That's what I think.
By necessity, by necessity, me saying that someone should work its way through the appellate process is me recognizing that there are individuals.
Nope.
I'm saying is a matter of fact in the law. The law looks at it as this is a fact that you have committed said crime. It does not mean that you actually did necessarily. That is what I am saying. So when you said it is a fact, yes, it is a fact in the eyes of the law. If you're asking me to clarify, then that is what I am saying. That is why I'm acknowledging that there is an appellate process by necessity.
But did you in fact commit the crime?
In fact of the law, yes, because that's
not what I'm asking, bro.
Well, okay, Andrew, let me ask you something. Andrew, is
and
the
you
jury
understand your question is like, yes, it's dumb the way you answered it, but your question is so stupid.
No, it's not.
He couldn't even conceive that you would think that he thinks that no matter what, if the law says it, it's true. Like,
and can someone answer?
What are you talking? It's okay. Do you hang on? Here, I'll clarify. So I would even grant this, except for this problem. That he asked me, do you think that in the eyes of the law, if you plead guilty to something, you're guilty in the eyes of the law? My answer was yes, of course. But you agree that that doesn't mean in fact you're guilty. And he was like, and so hang on. And so he clarified. And then I said, so in fact, would you be guilty? And Dummy said, yes. Like, what do you want me to do with that, bro? What do you want me to do with that?
And now he's clarified. It's very clear.
No, I think it's a backtrack, but okay.
Andrew,
you really think? Come on, dude. No one fucking thinks that. He just
they do think that. I think. I think that.
I want to be very.
You think, just to be clear, you think Vince Wilson doesn't believe that an exoneration is ever possible? That's what you believe.
No, I think that he was
there
biting.
Was a frame of moment in your time where, like,
yeah, I think he's biting. I think he was biting.
To manipulate reality.
Yeah, I think he was biting the bullet because he didn't want to make a concession that they could have been convicted, and if they were convicted, that they could in fact have not been actually guilty of the crime itself.
I want to be very clear.
You think all the January 6ers are not guilty of any crime?
I think most of them are not guilty of any crime. Yeah.
All of them.
Most.
I didn't say all.
No January 6ers that did any violence.
No, there were people on January 6th who did conduct some forms of violence, and yes, absolutely, I think that there should have been some sort of punishment for them. Trump condemned them, right? This should not have happened. But the thing is like, well, on a case-by-case basis, not all of them did get pardoned, is my understanding.
One of them did a violent, seditious conspiracy. Should he be pardoned?
What did he do that was actually violent?
Plan to overthrow the government by getting the Proud Boys to go in and
what did he? No, not what he was convicted of. What did he do?
To be clear, Enrique Cario wasn't even there. He planned this violence from the different locations.
So what violence did they do then?
They tried to. They broke into the fucking Capitol.
Oh, come on! That's not what violence. What actual violence did they do? Tell me.
Assaulting police officers and breaking into the
Okay,
Capitol.
wait. Your claim is that they assaulted police officers?
That's part of my claim.
Okay, demonstrate it. Demonstrate that the Proud Boys were assaulting police officers on J6. Go ahead. I just want to make sure that we're clear.
To be clear, this was because of my question was, do you think that everyone...
Demonstrate it, fucker.
Every single time that I pin you down on something, you try to ask a question and weasel your little way out of it.
How do you asked me a question, I answered it, you fucking idiot.
Were there people that committed violence on Jan 6? You said, well, I think most of them weren't. And then I said, do you think anyone did? You said, yes. And I said, should they be pardoned? And you said, well, I have to go on a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
So just to be clear...
And then you brought those cases up, stupid.
Okay, so this is you're completely missing the nuance. You're completely missing the nuance.
He's not missing the nuance. He knows he got fucked up.
No, Andrew,
okay, I agree.
Every single person, whether every single person was pardoned justly. Can you answer that?
I haven't seen any evidence to the contrary.
Okay, cool. That's what I'm looking for. Now, anyway, I'll go look that up if you really want me to.
Yeah, I really want you to.
I'm already trying to find it.
I know. Chat GPT's not helping you though, right?
No, I'm on right now. No, I mean, I can look. I'll look it up on Chat GPT if you want. I was trying to avoid that. You
might as well use it now. I mean, once you're in it, you're in it.
Okay. All right, I'll use ChatGPT for you then.
All right, you
Let's
can go
see.
ahead and look that up. Again, so I'm a little frustrated that as many concessions as we're even able to give, which is, hey, in this one specific instance of a specific tweet, this might be something that might encourage more rioting and violence, and potentially we can condemn that. In fact, I do. I say if this was at all responsible for any additional rioting or violence afterwards, I think she was a little irresponsible for promoting this bail fund. But when we get down into the nitty gritty of, well, I don't know which people committed violence where, and maybe this pardon, even though he didn't have the ability to do it for 4 years, well, he did it after 4 years, so it's okay. And also, I don't explicitly condemn the violence because really it wasn't that bad. A majority of the people weren't there. It was a mostly peaceful insurrection or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So I just don't understand why I
missing
even give
the
you a
point.
crumb of good faith when you're unwilling to admit even the slightest of a thing that promotes this as asymmetrical.
That's really
at all.
funny because the
insane.
questions that you asked for the concessions on, you got. So what was the bad faith part here?
You condemn
You asked
January 6th.
asked the concession.
That was my question.
You
to
asked the
Sylvan.
concession.
Do you guys condemn the violence on January 6th?
I already told you, of course, just like Trump.
Okay, cool.
What part of that concession?
Did you part?
Wait, hang on. But hang on. So this whole diatribe you just went on about
You
how.
think
Hey,
that his
stop,
parts-
stop,
no,
bro.
wait,
My
hold on.
turn.
No, wait, hold on,
My turn.
because-
The
that's not
whole.
Soy,
Soy,
listen.
The
It is-
whole.
you think
Yeah,
it's
soy. My
argument.
turn.
No,
Soy.
Andrew,
Soy.
it's not your
Gotta
turn.
listen to the
Just let
mod.
Andrew real quick.
Gotta listen to the mod, Soy.
No, you
So just let
Gotta
Andrew
listen
real
to the
quick, and
mod.
then you can
so
respond.
biased. Gordon.
Gotta
Let me
listen to
Soy,
the
I will
mod.
mute you
Soy.
if you don't shut the fuck up.
Go ahead, Andrew.
That's right, Soy. So this whole diatribe that you just went on about how we're bad faith and made no concessions, you just had backpedal on 15 seconds because both of us said any violence on J15th, we condemned. Just like
now,
Trump did.
Do you think that pardoning them is going to perpetuate that in any way, shape, or form, or encourage them? You said no, right? Because that's the actual concession.
It
in the argument
seems
as to whether or not
unlikely,
the
yes.
actions and hold on, it's my turn now, Andrew. Whether
I
or
was
not
answering
the
your
actions
question.
of people, no, you're not answering my question. I know you're not going to do it, but I'm going to try. Maybe
Okay,
John
go
will
ahead.
answer this. Point is that the actions of the politicians, so
Mhm.
Kamala Harris explicitly condemning it, you won't ever grant us that that's enough. But now you're saying that Trump doing it is enough. But when I say that Kamala Harris specifically, this is the concession, is allowing these people potentially to get bail for potentially violent actions, which potentially might cause more violent actions to happen. That is a concession. Are you going to concede that any of the rhetoric or the actions of President Trump or any of the Republicans at all might encourage more of this violence?
We have not seen that it is the case.
That's the concession. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Wait,
everyone.
hang on. I wasn't. Let me
let
at least answer before you start doing the fucking joyride. So, the thing is like if you can demonstrate a link like we just did to you between this Republican rhetoric. Shh. Between the Republican rhetoric and what's going on, you can show me the equivalent of, hey, fascist catch. You can show me the equivalent of all these people who are saying that this type of rhetoric, at least in their own little manifestos, they seem to be sourcing it quite a bit. Show me the fucking equivalence, you fuck. Show me.
It's so crazy. No, you're right.
Answer this question. I'm just gonna say one sentence.
Kamala Harris's
sentence.
bail fund is the reason I'm shooting Charlie Kirk. I totally remember that happening. I totally forgot. Sorry, you got me.
Wait. What does that have to do with anything? No, he didn't miss the point. He didn't miss the point. He just is avoiding the point. He's just avoiding it.
Directly responsible for this. I'm saying it was irresponsible for her to promote a bail fund that may have resulted in more violence. And the link that you showed was a guy getting released a year later, not from this bail fund, and doing a completely non-political violent act. That's what you're hinging on.
Wait, I thought that you granted that even if this was the case, in order to look for the logical consistency, and we were completely consistent.
Yes,
now you're backtracking a second time.
But no.
Now you're backtracking again, Soy?
I'm saying that's condemn. And now you're saying, well, I refuse to condemn Trump for these actions because you have to establish the link. You haven't established the link with Kamala Harris. I'm just assuming this could have had Trump's actions, and it's worth
Do you agree with me? Okay.
You refuse to concede.
Well, let's find out if this is true.
Vicious conspiracy may or may not lead to more violence.
Let's find out if this is true. Do you think that if there's a bail fund present during these riots, that the likelihood that people will show up to them increases or fucking decreases?
I'd say it increases.
Okay, that's it then, Soy, you fuck.
Okay, that's the link.
Here's the point that you're avoiding. I need to mention this. I need to mention this real fast.
Do it again.
I just love doing this to these people. I just love doing this to these fucking people.
Dude, he literally addressed me. Come on, Corbin.
Okay. There's a massive distinction here when you post a bail fund. during the riots and pardoning someone years after.
Now send me my fucking money.
Years after. Like, so my
Send
question,
me
can you name
my
a
fucking
single-
money.
Can you name a
What's the
single
difference,
act
John?
of violence?
No, what's the
Here,
difference?
I'll tell you the difference.
Tell me the difference.
The difference is when there's riots going on and the rioters see the bail fund, they
Yep.
say, maybe I can just do more riots and I can get away with this.
I enjoyed
You
that.
think
Any evidence to
January
prove that?
6th
that
is
when
over,
someone gets
when-
pardoned for a crime
hold on, that's
that they
the first
did,
half.
that they would
When
never,
January
ever, ever
6th is
I love
over,
you too,
when
Dark Star.
January 6th is
No
over,
homo,
4
though.
years later, you pardon the people.
I love
What
all of
violence
you.
has it-
No
okay,
homo.
What
can you
general
name a
election
single act
did
of
they
violence?
have
Can
to
you
try to
name
Because
a
if you say
single
no
act of
homo,
violence?
it takes away the
Wait,
gayness.
Let me.
Status
This
quo.
is the
One at
most
a time.
important question.
One at
This
a
is the
time.
most important question. This is the most important
John,
question.
how could they
Can you
possibly
link?
try the
Let
John,
me.
how
I
could
gotta
they
get this
possibly-
question
John,
out. I gotta
John,
get
how
this
could
question
they-
out.
Okay,
John,
hold on. So
I-
let John, just let John go again real
Let
quick,
John go
and then you
again?
respond.
He's
No,
asking me a
I mean,
question.
let him finish, and then you can go.
Finish.
Let
Oh my
him
God.
finish,
Okay,
and then you can go.
please.
It's a one sentence
Okay, go ahead,
question.
buddy.
Can you
Oh, yeah, I
name
like that
a
better. No
single
Diddy.
act of
I love
violence
you
that
guys.
has
No Diddy.
occurred as a result of the January 6th pardon?
Yeah, can you name me the election that they would try again to do? What general election? they would
Answering a
actually have
question
to
with
do?
a question.
No, because you got to understand that you're saying the litmus test for this is,
I've
well, if
got
you put
that
the bail
answer.
fund in the middle of the riots when there's another opportunity to the riots, therefore you're encouraging it to happen again. And yet there is yet to be another opportunity to help Donald Trump overthrow the election, at least not until the midterms, if not the 2028 election.
No Diddy.
So they literally haven't had the opportunity yet, but
No Diddy.
somehow this doesn't indicate that they might try again, even though they're completely now innocent of all crimes that they did on the day that they did it.
So
they haven't had the opportunity to try again. How does this at all map one-to-one?
So it's an argument of the gaps. It's just like,
No,
well, I can't
I don't
demonstrate it,
understand.
but in the
If you-
future, maybe.
You can't literally overthrow an election because there isn't one. How could they possibly try again? What election are they going to go overthrow right now?
Wait a second. I thought you just got done saying that Gavin Newsom was saying that he was going to run for a third term, and that when he
so
ran for the
at
third
the
term,
very least,
what
the
he could
next
do
general election
is he
should be
could we
2028,
could get
Andrew,
JD
so they can't
Vance.
go overthrow an election.
I want before this gets too far away.
Before
this gets too far away, I want to mention this with John because John asked who was pardoned by Trump that later committed a crime. I got a
No
great one,
Diddy.
actually. I have a story here. This is from The Guardian. It says authorities in
No
Texas
Diddy.
say they have captured a convicted U.S. Capitol attacker who was pardoned by Donald Trump at the start of his second presidency. Andrew Taki, 36, was arrested on Thursday in Leon County in connection with charges filed about 120 miles away in Houston for the January 6, 2021. He was, where is it here? He was charged with solicitation. Yes, solicitation of a minor.
But again, if they're being consistent, they'll say that's bad. I would say that has
Wait,
nothing
he was
to do-
soliciting a minor?
Yes.
What is it? So what does it have to do with anything then?
Well, that's my argument, but you guys are going off about
What are
this
you like? What are you
this
talking
guy
about?
who went out and killed a guy a year after the fucking riot happened, not immediately after, and has nothing to do with a political.
No,
message.
that well, hang on.
It's
My
bad.
argument was just this: it's the case that just having those bail funds increases the chance of political violence, and the fact that you only see them on the left, you say yes, then we've already established a link. You can't establish back the other way.
Well, he just showed you a criminal that made more crimes happen after he was pardoned. The increase in crime happened post.
Yeah, he hasn't correlated that had actually
He
anything
wouldn't
to
have been
do
able
with
to commit
that.
the crime if he was in jail, Andrew. He did it because he was
Wait
pardoned.
a
What do
second.
you mean?
Wait,
Was
so
it political violence?
yeah, it had nothing to do
Was
with
the guy
political
stabbing someone
nothing.
Political violence?
Was what?
The guy who stabbed someone, like the one example you brought up, was that political violence?
No, that wasn't political
And
violence.
I want to be very clear. Taki also was he assailed police with bear spray and a metal whip on the day he and other Trump supporters descended on Congress. So this wasn't somebody, by the way,
Okay.
who was like just there at the protest.
But I
He was
just
somebody that
want
actually
to I just
law
want to point
enforcement.
out though that then anybody who's released from prison, right, can attack somebody, and then we could just retroactively say, well, then you shouldn't have released him.
Well, no, Andrew, to be clear,
It's like,
I'm
what are you
saying
talking
not
about?
that. I'm saying you would have to show some sort of political violence happening as an extension. And I agree that obviously there's probably a likelihood that if people think there are bail funds, they might go again and do it. But you guys can't even fathom in your head that if you get pardoned for trying to overthrow a general election, you might try again the next time there's an opportunity. But because there hasn't been one yet, well, I guess it can't happen. We'll just have to wait and see till 2028. It couldn't
Okay.
possibly happen. The
I
likelihood couldn't
understand.
possibly-
So just to make sure I got your argument correct, yes, you believe that bail funds likely do increase the likelihood of violence at these political events, but there's a potential future in which the now pardoned after years of prison January 6ers may attempt to do another overthrow, insurrection that you don't believe happened. Is that right?
Okay. All right, hold on. Let me frame it the way.
Hang on, is that right? No, the insurrection.
Well,
Well,
no,
what
it's not
overthrow?
right.
There's no overthrow. There was no
It's not right,
insurrection,
Andrew.
right?
Here, let me
Let's
phrase it because
respond.
it's not right. You got a little things wrong.
Oh.
So you believe
Mhm.
that Kamala Harris putting a bail fund for people who were just out where they weren't supposed to be and letting them go back out in the streets and protest peacefully is somehow equivalent to Donald Trump getting the people who think they did nothing wrong and actually were on there under explicit orders from him to their belief and saying, hey, this is okay and you can do it again. This is nothing. This is absolutely not going to promote political violence. But Kamala Harris releasing peaceful protesters. I mean, that's insane, Andrew. That's crazy.
I don't actually understand what that particular straw man has to do with my steel man I just gave.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm sorry that
I was giving a steel man. You could have just disagreed with a steel man.
Fuck off. That wasn't a fucking
It was.
man.
I was actually making sure I got your position correct.
You are so retarded that you couldn't possibly fathom that telling
You
someone
say,
"Hey, that you tried to
bro,
overthrow
all
the
you do is
election,
filibuster.
and then
Do you
try
want to
and
have the
send you to
conversation or
favor,
not?
Totally okay.
Do you want to have the
Like, are you fucking
conversation or
insane?
not? If you
Are
do,
gonna
you
admit
can't
that it is
filibuster.
possible? Okay, well here.
So
Andrew,
just chill out and let me just ask you
interrupt-
this.
Well, you interrupted me. Can
Well, I was in the middle of you can't interrupt your interruption.
getting interrupted
I
by you.
interrupted your interruption. I was
Yeah,
talking and interrupted your interruption.
You're interrupting right
I'm
now.
sorry I interrupted your interruption.
Hold on.
Can I
I mean,
finish
let-
my question?
Yeah, so you can ask your question.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
but
then-
here's the thing. When I let you go
Whoa,
through
whoa,
it,
Whoa, hold on, Corbin.
I'm just setting. I just want to make sure I'm setting conditionals.
Can I finish my
Okay.
question?
I just want to make sure that
Andrew,
after that I can actually answer.
Okay, yes, Andrew, you can answer after.
All
You
right.
can answer.
Okay,
Just-
Andrew, you can
so-
finish. Okay, so when I say, yeah, it's probably likely that there's some increase of people that might do more rioting if they got a bail fund. That's obvious, and that's such an easy concession. But when I ask you, if someone is pardoned explicitly for the crime of trying to overthrow the election, it probably increases the likelihood that they might try again, knowing that the person who might benefit from them overthrowing the election would pardon them again. You cannot say yes to that. Is that true?
Yeah, this is actually correct. But why? Can you give me the why behind it?
No, why don't you give me the why?
No, that's not how Steelman's work, stupid. Tell me
I'm
why
asking you a
I
question.
hold
I'm
the
not
position.
steelmanning you. I'm asking you a question. Please
Oh,
answer.
no. Okay, so yes, these are not comparable. You're talking about a distinction of 4 years in prison.
There's no general
Okay,
election for
all
them
right,
to overthrow.
I thought I was going to be
Andrew.
allowed to answer the question. No?
God.
Yeah, so let Andrew.
Yeah,
Good.
so these are not comparable. When you're talking about bail funds just being present, you can't point to anything on the right which is like this. You've conceded this point, demonstrating that, yes, not only is the left committing violence, but is also setting up organizations in which to bail people out when they're part of this. The reason that you guys keep on saying, for instance, most of these arrests happen in curfew. Well, yeah, they sweep them off the street because most violence happens after fucking curfew. That's why they're sweeping them off the fucking streets. That's one. The second aspect here, which makes no sense to me at all, they spent years in prison. Clearly, the people broadly must think that there was a massive injustice which happened here because Donald Trump got elected again. It's not like I'm in some like marginal tinfoil hat conspiracy bubble. Most people seem to agree that, wait a second, something seriously wrong happened with the prosecutions of these people in J6. They re-elected the fucking guy, and he won the popular vote on top. Calm down, calm down. I thought I was still not allowed to answer. Still not allowed to answer. Right? Okay, so anyway,
and then you respond.
the thing that's really funny here is like they're not comparable at all. Having that 4-year prison, you always omit that. They had 4 years in fucking jail before the pardon. You think that doesn't act as a deterrent, and then you say, well, wait a second, no more election can even happen. Then what the fuck is Gavin Newsom talking about? How Trump's going to stay for a third seat and how he's going to accomplish that? He's just going to deploy the military and declare himself the king of the fucking United States? Like, what are you even talking about here, man?
Okay, so thank you for admitting your entire base is fucking retarded and that you didn't understand my point. The point is there has not been an election for them to try and overthrow. They were in prison for 4 years because Donald Trump was not president and could not pardon them for those 4 years. As soon as he gets in power and as soon as he has the ability to, he gets them out. And now, if there is another election in 2028, they would very likely at least just admit that they might try again in the next election, which could happen. And then Donald Trump might say, hey, I pardoned you once for this. It's very likely that I'll pardon you again for it. Why the fuck wouldn't they try again?
Because they don't want to spend another 4 years in prison. If it is the case that the new government, hang on, calm.
Hold on, Andrew.
Why is nobody ever allowed to actually answer the question you ask? It's very likely that if there's a deterrent of, the federal government's going to fucking persecute you if you even show up, if you don't even commit violence, right? They're going to persecute you and throw your ass in fucking prison. And by the way, they had 4 years. This was the most investigated. I believe that this was the largest U.S. investigation in history. I mean, you can chat GPT that. I think that that's the case. The largest in history. You think we don't have the facts on it at this point, and that the president and his Justice Department can't go through the facts before they give these pardons, and he was swept in by popular vote. It appears that there could have been some injustice going on there. I'm just not willing to accept your narrative that when you say, I don't agree that this was actually an insurrection. Okay, I don't either. And so the thing is what's really funny is these guys get put away for 4 years. You think they're going to go back out and try a second time. Yeah, fucking right, dude. Yeah, fucking right.
Okay, so to be clear,
I also do want to mention 4 years for assault is a very long time.
Hold on, one at a time.
Go ahead, John.
Soy, and then John.
Okay, cool. So to be clear, completely ignoring the fact that these people are dead to rights, convicted of like trying to overthrow the government. The reason I don't want to hang on the insurrection point, it's because I know you love playing the definition game there, and it's not really worth it. We can see what they tried to do. They tried to steal the election for Donald Trump, and once he had the power to
wait, so you were lying, and you do think it's an insurrection?
Why is no one ever allowed to finish a point, Andrew?
So it was an insurrection?
Everyone else.
So to be clear, they tried to overthrow the election, and Donald Trump pardoned them for that. And you're so incapable of admitting that maybe people who realized that, hey, if we were successful and Donald Trump had become president, he would have pardoned us right away, or we wouldn't even gone to jail in the first place. That's so beyond the pale for you. Couldn't possibly conceive of it. But when I say, yeah, maybe some people who looked at a bail fund might say, well, I don't have to worry nearly so much about crime. I'm being so fucking good faith in granting you that when you still haven't established that any people that rioted did it because of a bail fund. I'm just saying, it's probably likely, but you're incapable of admitting that maybe someone pardoned for a crime might try to do it again in a way that gets their guy elected so that he pardons them again, or they never go to jail.
Well, wait a second. When it comes to the realm of logical possibility, and grant almost anything is logically possible, Superman could exist, for instance. We're talking about the cases of likelihood, right? What I saw was Nick Fuentes distance himself from Trump after J6. I saw a lot of the prominent people who were there afterwards distance themselves. I don't want anything to do with this guy. And a lot of the people who were released, were very mad at Trump. They were very upset with Trump. They thought they should have gotten a pardon on his way out the door. It does not actually seem as though these people are going to be willing to show up to overthrow any fucking election, or that they ever did in the first place. And by the way, let's point this out, that you just lied about your position on insurrection twice, right? I asked you if it was.
John Paul that he could respond.
So the insurrection, right? Point. When I asked you, was it an insurrection?
I said,
no. He said no. No, you said no.
Conversation go further. Let's say
you said no. No, you didn't say for the sake of the conversation. You just lied about your position. You were hiding it.
And I'm saying you in parentheses for the sake of the conversation, because the implicit thing is we're not going to get bogged down.
Okay, well, let me just ask this: was it an insurrection or not?
Okay. Let's say no.
No. Your actual position. Hey, I'm not trying to bog it down. I want to know the answer.
Let's say no, because it's not really worth it.
Was it an insurrection or not? Yeah. So you got nothing. You fucking lying sack of gutless weasels bullshit.
I'm not lying. I'm saying let's say no for the sake of the conversation.
Yeah, but I don't want here.
Andrew and Soy. I promised John Paul that he could respond.
Okay, so there's a lot that needs to be addressed here, because I think, Soy, you're missing or just outright avoiding all the points that we're bringing up. So I'm willing to grant, and I do grant, actually, that if Donald Trump pardoned people who you can confirm committed violent crimes and did that during like a time of insurrection on the Capitol or violence, that could potentially lead to more violence. But
so only
there's
during
a lot
the
of conditions. There's a lot of conditions.
Let's say yes for the sake of argument.
Yes, let's say yes.
Let's say yes.
There's a lot of conditions.
That's what you're saying. I'm not saying.
No, let's say it for the sake of argument, though.
I don't agree with this argument.
Oh, I don't agree with you not agreeing with the argument.
Oh, well,
let's just say for the sake of argument, we'll hide all of what we actually think about things from now on, Soy.
Is the definition of insurrection prevalent?
Okay, so here's the thing.
I'm not asking. Did I ask for a definition of insurrection? Fuck.
We don't know enough about each individual case to make a claim regarding the pardons. But so we're just assuming that he pardoned someone who actually committed a crime.
No, we're not. Actually, Vince brought up a specific example for you, John, and you said, "Well, actually, the violence."
There's many points. Okay,
I like to jump in at some
what
point.
Andrew,
by the way.
what Andrew was bringing up, which is very important, is the concept of deterrence. When people spend time in jail, and they spend time in jail, that acts as a deterrent. I'm not going to go and step foot even close to the Capitol if I know that people who just standing there recording the building on the outside were given years and years of jail time, let alone actually trespass and assault officers.
Okay, by your standards, can you tell me one violent criminal who was released on bail immediately after the BLM?
For the sake of argument, I can tell you 5. For the sake of argument.
Kamala Harris, when she put out the bail fund, that was during
what a
the
gutless
riots.
fuck.
People can see that, and they could reasonably commit more crimes.
Okay. So as long as the crime happens within a longer time, it's okay, right?
There's no, not here's.
It's okay if the crime happens 8 years later, even if they were encouraged over the course of 8 years. That's fine.
No, that's not the main point. You're not encouraged. By the way, 4 years for assault. That's a long time.
What if they thought they weren't going to get another 4 years?
This drink is really good.
The maximum you get for a misdemeanor assault most of the time is a year.
Well, it's
so
a felony
4 years. I'm not going to.
So it's not a misdemeanor. That's a little different.
And their felony assault is generally up to 7 years. 4 years is
it can be up to 20 sometimes
time.
if it's with a deadly weapon. Actually, I didn't chat GPT that. I googled.
I don't think people want to spend any time.
Would you lie to us about that though?
Google, by the way, Soy.
We're talking.
Did you lie about it though, Soy?
We're making a point about probability. We're making a point about probability.
For example, Kamala Harris.
There's two things. There's a point about probability, and then there's a point about linking the actual cases. Can I finish real fast? Point about probability. The probability of someone counting on the fact that in 4 years their president is going to get elected again and pardon them makes it extremely unlikely that they're actually going to commit another act of violence. When you post a bail fund in the middle of a riot, people are going to think I can escape this potentially, and that is going to make it more probable to commit violence.
How many
the other thing is the linkage between these violent acts. We made
dude, why can't this guy even make his case, dude? Just calm down.
He's like talking out of his ass about points.
So look, you know what's funny is like he's been super respectful to you. At least let him make his case.
Yeah, he has.
I got
take you out for a beer, John.
All right, so there's a link. The other point, other than probability, is the point
shut
about
up,
linkage.
Soy. Shut your fucking mouth, Soy.
We have given the condition that when you're talking about responsibility for political violence, there has to be a link between the act and the violence. We demonstrated a direct link between Kamala Harris posting bail fund and
shut
people
your fucking mouth, Soy.
Committing acts of violence. There is not a case. There's not a case where as a result of the pardons that people have committed more political violence as a result of the pardons.
You haven't made that case.
So you have two issues. I mean, your only argument is about potentiality. Your only argument is about potentiality, that potentially in 4 years, if JD Vance or Donald Trump or whoever's running for president doesn't get elected, then probably there's a potential for people to form an insurrection and overthrow the government. Probably some people will commit violence because they're probably counting on the fact that in a number of years, there will be a president of their liking that gets elected again and pardons them. That's a completely outrageous point.
I love this shit, okay? I love rolling around in the mud and making this guy look stupid every fucking 5 seconds. I love that shit. Don't get mad at me. I fucking love that shit. Okay, I do.
Doing more political violence because you haven't done it yet.
Yeah, rioters.
You can't just say rioters. You have to show that her bail fund encouraged rioters to go out and do more political violence. You got to show me that.
You did.
No, you didn't.
You made the concession. You made the concession. No, you made the concession.
Oh, okay. So when I grant you the modicum,
you didn't grant shit. It was a concession.
Oh, it's not a grant.
No, it was a concession. Yes. You're conceding the point because it's true.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. If it's true,
everyone let Vince come in now.
Yeah. If it's true. Right? There's a difference between it's likely versus it did. If it did, then there should be something that you guys can point to.
Actually, this is actually a good point. So you're right. We're talking about likelihoods. And so when I asked Soy, do you think that the likelihood drastically increases when you have a bail fund? He says, yeah, it does. Of course, it makes sense. Hang on, it makes sense.
Wait,
hang on, calm down.
I got 2 words out, by the way, before you.
Well, I thought. You just asked me a question. Like, why do you guys ask me questions and then when I start answering them, you get upset?
I didn't ask you a statement. I said.
Okay, go ahead.
I said that there is a difference between likelihood and that something did happen, and that if you guys say that something did happen, in fact, that you guys should be able to provide something to back up that claim. And that is something that I feel like you guys have not done. And again, reiterating my opening statement that you guys have fully proven is that anytime we bring this up, you guys deflect. You'll say that it's some other kind of issue. You will not take responsibility for the fact of what you guys do. But when it's the left, you guarantee it wouldn't take any modicum evidence. You could just see that you, like you said before already, by the way, you could see a word on a bullet casing and automatically go, yep, that's the case. But I guarantee you, somebody on the right, you guys would not sit there and you guys would have all sorts of just like, well, wait a minute, guys. Hey, he might have PTSD. Oh, he might have had trouble with his marriage. But you guys would never, ever, ever grant that amount of courtesy to anybody on the left.
Well, here's the thing. It's really funny, right? It's like, I don't know why you think it is that our faculties go out the window. When it comes to this stuff, like I think a tranny fucker who fucking puts out, oh, hey, fascist catch. I think we can put 2 and 2 together there, right? I think we can put it together. I know it really jumped in. Shut up. It's my Vince's exchange. I know, Vince, that upsets you that we were able to call that correctly because it was very simple to do based on the circumstances of what was going on with that particular case. But the funny part here is like, I don't even I actually don't even understand the ultimate criticism. If we're talking about likelihoods, then all we're doing is making the same comparison that you're trying to. We're saying that the likelihood here, if it's the case that you have bail funds, you make the concession, of course, if the bail funds are there, that is going to increase the amount of people on the ground, thus increasing political violence, versus do you think that it's likely that people who spent years in prison after a pardon they didn't even know that they were going to get is going to somehow increase the likelihood that there's going to be another example of J6? You also say that we're running away from responsibility or somehow deflecting, and yet, when asked directly, do we condemn any violence which happened on J6, we both said yes, and so did Trump. Not only are we not deflecting, we're taking mine and Vince's exchange. Calm down, Soy. The thing is like, how many concessions can we possibly make in good faith and demonstrate this for? And by the way, let's just assume for a second we never did. We never, ever took responsibility for anything. What the fuck does any of that have to do with whether or not the left commits more violence or not? What? Even if I deflected from everything and doubled down and said Trump's the man, he should have overthrown the fucking government. Even if I said that shit, Vince, what the fuck does that have to do with whether or not the left commits more violence or not?
We moved on from that, Andrew, because you were unable to accept the data and didn't have data of your own that countered ours, so...
Yeah, very scientific, Soy.
Okay, here's a more one-to-one example that you guys will.
Can you let Vince fucking answer? Can you let Vince answer? Ever?
I highly doubt it, but I do want to ask you that real quick.
No. Daddy Soy has to come in to bail out Vince.
I think we should find the guy who roughed up that protester in my.
Soy, seriously.
Yeah, let Vince fucking have his exchange. You calm down. Twirl your fucking propeller or something for a second.
Okay, I got a stim.
What did you want to say to Andrew?
Yeah, I
think it has a lot to do with it. Again, if the right refuses, and again, going back to my opening statement, because I love to reference that, is that again, in the absence of condemnation from the right, and you guys may condemn it, that's fine. But the vast majority of people that I have engaged with and that I have seen online don't necessarily condemn it outright, and the most that I have seen have done otherwise.
Ooh.
And so in the absence of
That's exactly the look I was
expecting.
I
can go. I'm sorry, dude. My internet sucks.
Yeah.
You can look at the left. When you look at the left, or the right,
who on the right didn't condemn violence? They all condemn violence, as far as I saw.
Okay,
so let me ask you something. Let me ask you. Since you talked about dog whistles, if Gavin Newsom said, "I condemn this rhetoric," and then goes in and then pardons or bails out, because you guys have already said this implicitly with Kamala Harris, then bails out all of those people that protested, would you still say that Gavin Newsom condemned, and that he condemned the rhetoric? Would you say that same thing? Because you seem to not be doing that with Kamala Harris. In fact, you were saying quite the opposite with Kamala Harris.
You're saying, so like if this something equivalent of J6 happened in California, and then Gavin Newsom decided that he would go ahead and pardon all these people after they did 4 years in fucking prison, would you agree that he condemned the violence the day after? Yeah, probably.
I don't believe it. But
well, that's nice. An argument from incredulity. Andrew, I don't believe you. That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I don't
my
believe
question
that
is,
you
if
don't
guys-
believe
if
me.
Donald Trump were to say, "Hey, I will pay the bail funds for people who assault protesters at my things," and that's in the middle of protesters doing things in his rallies, would you say that might?
You
be
mean that
encouraging
gotcha where
violence
he
in
was
some
being
ways?
tongue in cheek? It was very cleverly done there, Soy.
Joking. Okay, so even in the most one-to-one example, it was a
Show
joke.
me
You
the
know
bail
what?
fund. Show
Kamala
me
Harris,
the bail
like,
fund.
LOL
Fuck.
bail
Show me the
funds.
bail fund.
LOL bail funds. I think bail funds. Are pretty
LOL
funny.
bail funds.
Bail funds are funny, dude. I
Yeah.
think they're hilarious.
So
I'm gonna go
show
retweet
me.
a bail
Can
fund
you
now.
show me
It's
the
a good
actual
meme.
bail fund? It was a clever gotcha, but it didn't work. Show me the bail
pretty fun
fund.
meme
Show
to
me the bail
retweet
fund.
bail funds.
Show
There's
me the
actually
bail
there is a
fund.
Patriot Legal Fund. There's a Patriot Legal Fund that's helping pay for legal fees of all of those who are on January 6th. They're also helping. Pay
So
for
there's
some of
not
the
bail
family.
funds for protesters then? So not that.
Oh wait,
we
I'm
don't
sorry,
have that.
Andrew. I could have sworn you said these don't exist on the right, and he just brought
They
up
don't.
a
No,
fund
that
definitely
doesn't.
exists
That's
on
not
the
a
right.
fucking protester bail fund. You lying sack of
Oh, they're not
gutless shit.
protesters? What would you call them then?
No. The J6ers are people who are being politically persecuted. This is long. This is long after.
If you didn't
This
smoke
was
and you weren't so
long
fucking
after.
fat, it would be easier to lift the goalpost and move them
This
around.
was
dude.
long.
Jesus Christ,
this
dude.
this
Holy
this was
shit.
long after. You should use those dick sucking lips of yours
Oh
to go
my
ahead
God,
and
dude.
actually make the
Holy
case.
shit. Hey, girls love these. You
Make
should ask your wife.
make the case. Make the actual case. Ask my wife.
Doesn't it suck when people
Wait.
yell at you and you get all flustered?
I'm
and
sorry.
Your masculinity
Yeah.
just
Are you
disseminates and
ever?
You start to feel
Yeah.
all that.
Are you ever
going to
make an argument?
Andrew?
Are we just
going to
troll?
About all the other men
All
your
right, let's
wife's
troll.
fucking have
Hey,
kids with,
if you
dude?
want to
Is it
troll,
happening?
let's troll. Is that what we want to do?
Soy.
Dude,
Hey,
is that
Soy,
where we're
I think
going?
Soy,
Are we just going to do trolling? If you want to do that, we can do that.
I think it's the pickle behind you that's got him a little flustered.
Olive.
I didn't even think of that. Holy
Olive.
shit. Well, check this out.
Jesus Christ. Okay, we're gonna throw things.
You keep
John
one by
Paul.
you just in case. Now, do you have someone else loosen up?
We're gonna kick it over to
Is
John
that?
Paul
I mean,
now.
here's the thing, though, Soy. Like, if you want to have legitimate
Andrew,
debates,
Andrew, I just think we're gonna kick it
I
to
don't give a
John.
shit. Here's the thing, Soy.
Oh,
If we're gonna
Morgan,
if we're just gonna do trolling, now we're doing trolling.
I will mute everyone.
Now we're just doing trolling,
We're
bro.
kicking it to John
No.
Paul.
Now we're gonna
this
do
is
some
not descending
trolling.
into just me.
No. We
Kicking it to
must
John.
do trolling now.
We were kicking it to John.
We have to
John,
do
what do you
trolling
think?
now. John's not allowed to talk anymore. Nobody's allowed to
just
talk.
tired of
We're
moving
just
goalposts.
doing
Let it go now,
trolling
guys.
now.
All right, John
Nobody's
Paul,
allowed
go.
to speak. He's allowed to insult my wife. Right? He's allowed to do
Hey,
that.
you're the one who called her a 6. dude. I
Hey,
just monkey dude,
when
all
your
right?
when your fucking family's doxing's up online, don't get mad at me. You opened it up. You opened it up.
Sure.
You opened
right,
that shit
fine.
up. And the thing that's funny is
Yeah,
like,
I will-
wait, hang on, Soy.
We
Was
did it
that
first.
was
Just
that
like
due
the Proud Boys? You're just playing
was that
self-defense,
due to your rhetoric? Did you bring it on yourself with your rhetoric? By the way, we don't do. By the way, never.
I think the insult.
By the way, we never do. By the way, we never do doxing ever. I'm just pointing this out to you. I'm just pointing this out to
I'm
you.
pointing out that you are an incredibly weak man baby who postures as super masculine, but the instant someone insults you, you get flustered and feel like a little bitch.
No, you're just
And
filibustering. You're not.
So
your
clearly
insults.
upset about it,
Your
and now
insults
you're
are
like,
shit.
You're being really mean to me.
Your insults are dog shit.
Embarrassing.
You wear a
dude.
propeller on your fucking head. You're a fucking
and you
doofus.
yourself has said, "Hey, he does it as a joke," but now that you think
Hang on. Can we?
trying so hard?
Can you
you're
tell me?
grasping.
Can you
Go
tell?
fucking smoke
Can you tell me
another
why your
cigarette.
live streams only
Don't
have
worry, dude.
4,000 on them, and your other
Because
streams
people-
have
because
9?
people subscribe
Yeah.
to me for video essays. They don't give a
Yeah,
shit
it's
about
it's
this.
really weird. It's almost like you're
fucking
lying. It's almost like you're lying about. Yeah, I think you're botting your channel. You want to talk about
You
that?
think I'm botting?
Yes.
Dude, why would I bot to have 200 fucking people, dude? You
I
think I go on these live
I
streams
don't
where they do
understand.
no money
Yeah.
and I pay for them? You're
I-
fucking insane.
Exactly. That's
dude.
what's weird. How do you have
do I-
200,000 plus views on some of your videos? A lot of your
People watch
videos,
me for things that aren't this.
but
This
you
is
don't make
fucking
any fucking money. You make zero
This is
money.
your life. You try to market yourself
Mhm.
selling debate for some reason, even though
Yeah.
you're dog shit at it.
I don't know.
You
I
come
beat you
out
every
here
time.
and You're like, guys, this is my whole fucking life. Debate is awesome. On your birthday, instead of spending time with your family,
if you were good at
debated
debate,
for the
then
whole
why
day.
won't you
I
debate?
go out, I make video essays, and then I go live
Mhm.
a fucking life. So yeah, my fucking audience doesn't like this shit. It's awful, and I tell them I'm sorry. All the descriptions are like, I'm so sorry you have to watch this absolute dog shit. You love it. In
Yeah.
any other situation, you'd be a fat, overweight construction worker who dies of a heart attack at
I know.
45. But thank God that you have the fucking internet and a bunch of retards think you're
Mhm.
fun to listen to. So now you can make money doing something else. It's embarrassing.
Anything
You're a
else?
fucking embarrassment of human
Is there
beings, dude.
anything else, Soy?
I have a lot more. to
How's
say.
that apartment treating you?
It's actually pretty nice.
I don't know. I'm about to move into a $1.4 million house, and that's pretty fucking nice too. That's pretty fucking nice too.
You've got a MAGA audience of a bunch of retards who also love giving money to people who think.
Enjoy the propeller hat. Enjoy the fucking propeller hat, bro. Enjoy the fucking propeller hat.
When you have nothing to offer them, you're so bad. I don't know why you self-admit to being low IQ. Why not just say you're smart? At least then they'll have a master.
I don't know what to. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry that I make so much money online and you're seethingly jealous. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's the one thing you said that's correct. I wish I made as much money as you.
I know.
Unfortunately, I can't be as stupid.
I can't even. You can't even imagine how much I'm making right now while you're filibustering the debate.
I can totally imagine.
Yeah, I know, but dude, you really can't.
No,
it's so much more than you. Bro, it's so much more than you think.
I'm actually able to project even 8 years into the future when I'm making a lot.
You're not ever going to make any money online.
When the next election happens,
because you can't debate. You just troll.
Vault.
You don't even debate. You just troll.
And I can imagine the election too.
Look at this debate. So who do you think's going to come and debate with you again?
Dude, and no one ever debate with me, you realize I get to focus all the time on the things I want to do and not the things that you.
Then why is it that you wanted to do this debate then?
I actually did. It's so funny. Corbin, I was going to be super nice to him. He reached out and he was super sweet. And he said, "You're the first person I asked." And then the next day he said, "And Andrew Wilson's confirmed." I said, "Jesus Christ, I have to talk to this fucking retard for another 3 hours." But I didn't want to be mean to Corbin. And John, I just want to say you've been incredibly respectful, and I actually am. I know you're at UC Berkeley. I'll go out. I'll take you to lunch, and I think you can be saved because you're not stupid. You really are. You've demonstrated actually at least in some integrity and the ability to like process a logical argument, even if I think you're completely wrong. So.
You don't know anything about logic. You're the worst at it. And by the way, if you were good and skilled at debating, why wouldn't you just keep debating? Why do you have to troll the debate?
This accomplishes nothing. You're unable.
You can't do it. You can't do it.
Amount of thing. The only thing this is for.
The only thing you could do was attack my wife. That's it.
You can accuse me of botting. Half these fucking people are your guys in here.
Can I just ask you? Can I just ask you one question? Just one question before we wrap the debate up. Have I ever attacked? I just want to know. Have I ever attacked your family once?
You don't know my family. But
no, because I wouldn't. I just don't do it.
Wouldn't.
I don't do it. I don't do it.
Gracious Andrew, kind Andrew. He's just the nicest guy out there. Guys, I want to go look at all the clips of Andrew being so nice. He's just the most good faith, kind person.
I am actually, yeah.
Build bridges. He's never done anything awful, misogynistic, or
what have I done awful to name something I've done awful to somebody?
No, you're right, Andrew. I think you're the paragon.
Can you tell me what I've done awful to somebody or not?
And it's so amazing.
It's just you're just a low tier troll.
Just because they hate you and you're good debating and logic, it's so fucking awful.
What's the thing is funny? Just filibuster. Filibuster the debate, troll.
Why wouldn't I to say, why don't I insult John's?
You're not.
John.
Look, you're not a serious. You're not a serious person. You're not a serious debater. I don't know what to tell you. Thing is, the thing is like I came on.
Your job. You're talking to this fucking retard and you're bragging about it. Like I'm happy.
I was doing a favor for Corbin.
I'm out here. I'm not a serious.
I was doing a favor for Corbin.
Who you're talking to? I do this for fucking fun.
Yeah,
this is your career.
And that's exactly why you're going to keep on working at the fucking low tier factory you're at. I'm sure. The thing is, though, is with Corbin, and here's the thing. It's funny. I came out to help his channel. I told him the last debate I would. And so I did. I came out and did exactly that. But the thing is like, never forget that you're a low tier fucking troll and you could have had a great debate here and you just chose not to.
It's all me, buddy.
This was all you.
Well, you know what? I appreciate all of you fine gentlemen coming out and giving me a slice of your clout. I really appreciate that.
I don't got no clout. All right, look, I'm trying, but I ain't got
more clout than I am, Vince. All right, you got to give yourself some credit. I'm not like the.
I will say, I mean, now that we're kind of winding down a little bit, I mean,
yes, we were winding. Winding down.
I know this is like this is winding down. I will say, I mean, just on the top. Oh, I'll let you go ahead.
So we are closing in on the 3-hour mark. I don't know if any of you gentlemen have a hard out. I can keep going for a bit, but it seems like we've derailed a good bit. How do we kind of want to proceed?
Yeah, I'm good with closing statements.
All right.
Yeah.
Everyone else good?
That's fine.
Alrighty, then, Mr. Soypill, where can people find you and give yourself a closing statement?
Yeah, I'm a low-tier factory worker, the Soypill. I do video essays on YouTube, but don't go check those out because I need to fail out and pursue my real career of whatever the fuck it was going to be otherwise. I wanted to come here and talk about the rhetoric of our politicians and how blatantly obvious it is that the right wing is refusing to condemn anything. And while I would not put this onus on John or Andrew, despite Andrew's reach, I think it's very clearly a demonstration of what those Republican politicians do, which is deflect, 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 excuse, excuse, excuse. Every single time, there's never, ever, ever, ever a modicum of responsibility for when their side and their rhetoric does something awful. You can ignore the study if you really want to, but I promise you, if you go through it, yeah, you're going to find some things that you might say, maybe that belongs here, that belongs there. But until they provide some sort of study that shows that actually the left wing is overall doing it and not declare, well, it's because of these videos I saw and it just kind of feels like more are happening, I'm going to go ahead and say that probably the right wing is doing it more. And I'll even concede, look, it seems like the left wing's doing it more this year, and that's not good. I condemn it. It shouldn't happen. But guess what? The right wing's being super fashy. So that don't justify violence against them. But I mean, if you literally go on the HUD.gov right now, the radical left are going to shut down the government and inflict massive pain on all American people, according to the current Trump administration. It's always the entire left's fault. It justifies everything that's ever done to them. He's going to pardon them. He's going to do awful things. And hey, when it gets really, really bad, maybe we will have to do some, boogaloo stuff. But I don't think we need to get there. I think we can have peaceful elections and fight back against this really well. So thank you for having me, Corbin. Andrew, it was fun. I know the insults go back and forth. I don't know why your wife's off the table when, clearly she's in the debates with us. I would never go after your children. I hope they live prosperous, beautiful lives.
Oh,
John,
I can't believe, you're so nice.
This is my
Okay,
You're so nice.
I know you have very low inhibitions. Yeah. But yeah, John, hit me up on Twitter or something. I'll take you out to lunch out in Berkeley or something. So,
all right, Mr. John Paul Leon, where can people find you, and what's your closing statement?
All right. So first of all, I just do want to thank everyone for participating in this debate. I do think we did touch upon a lot of crucial aspects of the debate and conversation, which was very nice. People can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube primarily. Instagram and TikTok is where I have the most amount of stuff. YouTube, I just have like a single short there. Usually if you look up
I really like the
at john.paul.leon on Instagram and TikTok, you should find me. On YouTube, I'm John Paul Leon / Sharp Young Minds. And so I think regarding closing statements, I do want to say throughout this debate, I do want to emphasize the moral and clarity and the framework that we have set up. Again, political violence is never justifiable. And the key distinction that I made early on in my opening statement and throughout the debate was that the acts of violence from the right is committed by the fringe right, and it is always condemned on the mainstream level. The fringe right also doesn't have a strong ideological backing or basis within the mainstream right, which is also fundamentally important to the conversation. Whereas the distinction I made between that and the left is that the mainstream left often normalizes and excuses violence and is typically in unison with these movements. You have Black Lives Matter, anti-ICE riots, you have pro-Palestine movements, you have people getting indoctrinated, or I don't like to use the word indoctrinated, but I would say mobilized at university campuses, completely radicalized. You have pro-life journalists being punched. And in reality, our top leaders of the Republican Party are the ones who are being shot and killed when you don't see that same impact on the left. And that's why I wanted to draw out my other key distinction, which was the just pure scope of everything. When you look at the whole scope, the most damaging event of sustained political violence in the U.S. history were the BLM and Antifa riots.
He's right.
You don't see that same amount of impact.
Yeah, I muted myself, though.
So frankly, if we
it's true, I'm muted, but I always mute myself so I can talk to you guys.
Responsibility and political violence, there's many of these things that these studies don't classify, many things that they include that they shouldn't include. And overall, when we just see the total impact and influence and responses from both parties, we see that the Republican Party has always condemned it. My opponents will say that they have not condemned it, but they have not shown a single example throughout this entire debate. And you see all of the other things going on with the left and how they're refusing to condemn it, like Destiny not condemning the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. We can see that the situation is completely clear. The fringe right commits violence that we don't support. The Republican Party doesn't support. The mainstream left, it rationalizes, excuses, justifies, tolerates violence. And we see that has large-scale impact on the political landscape.
All right, Mr. Vince Wilson, give yourself a shout out. And yes,
I'm going to try to do this without the internet hiccuping here.
All right.
First of all, yes, I'm the Vince Wilson Show. I do I do live streams. I do TikTok shorts, YouTube shorts. I said TikTok shorts. And if it's not a dedication, yes, I'm traveling and I am doing my best to try to facilitate this debate. I do enjoy having these debates with everybody on here, so I appreciate everybody on here. To my closing statement, I just want to say I think it's hilarious to hear that it's the left that continuously deflects when all we have seen throughout this entire debate was the right continuously deflect. How anytime we bring up an example of saying, hey, look, here's a contradiction, it gets deflected. I think in my opening statement, I mentioned even that there was and to what I was trying to get at by this is saying that when the right deflects, it creates kind of this victim mentality where essentially when one side, the left particularly, says, hey, guess what? We condemn this. I pulled up numerous quotes from Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi. You got Chuck Schumer, who consistently condemn this rhetoric and hold it their own. They actually don't. They go through with the actual judicial process. But what we see is that the right will do this. We saw this recently with the Mormon incident where they said it was PTSD, it was this or that. We saw with January 6th where Andrew Wilson and we have seen where they sat there and said, well, there was no fund set up, but there was a fund, and then all of a sudden it didn't count. So what happens in this situation is when the right continuously deflects and they never take accountability, and the left does, it creates this idea that the left is the perpetrator. We've seen Donald Trump mention that the left is fascist, that the press is the enemy. We've seen where they talked about Stephen Miller, who's going out there and consistently using the same rhetoric. And time and time and time again, the right will use the same exact language. But because of the double standard, they don't hold their own to that same standard. They don't tell their own to stop using fascist and communist and Marxist when it may not even be necessarily need to be applied. But they don't hold their own to that same standard. And that is the issue at hand. So that's where I'll end my closing statement.
All right, Mr. Andrew Wilson, give yourself a shout out and your closing remarks.
Yeah, my name is Andrew Wilson. I'm the host of The Crucible. Obviously, by the way, and all of you guys here should know, I don't advocate for any type of doxing whatsoever, never have. I was using this as a rhetorical scale to show how you can escalate when it comes to rhetoric. So I've never done that to anybody, never going to, just pointing this out, that when somebody says it's on the table for you, for I can attack you, it's like, well, you see how that rhetoric will escalate. So, but anyway, that aside, right, and by the way, nobody here actually would think I would ever do anything like that, right, nor instruct my audience to. But anyway, this aside, these guys got completely fucking murdered in this debate, and it was bad. And the problem is they just keep saying, well, you won't concede. You won't concede on these various points. We don't have to concede on these points. It's not necessary because the points were in our favor. We stuck to the facts. When you try to take these two positions and then you try to meld them as though they have some equivalency, you're just incorrect. And we were able to point this out over and over and over again. And we were able to logically demonstrate it over and over and over again. Why do you think Soy got so pissed off that he started trolling at the end and literally filibustered the last half hour of the debate? Because these guys were so frustrated that they couldn't contend with the fact that we were able to point out examples of escalating left-wing violence, and all that they could come up with is, well, maybe in some future election somewhere, the people who were pardoned for J6 who spent years in jail during this witch hunt might try to come back out and overthrow it. It's the most ridiculous argument that anybody's ever heard. And we have every reason to be skeptical of it when they make it and draw out that the parallel here doesn't really make sense. Also, it's not high-profile leftists who are getting shot. It's high-profile right-wingers, including Trump. They tried to assassinate him, too. And we all know that the likelihood of that happening again from a leftist extremist is probably pretty high. Nobody thinks it's not even these two people. So the problem is that when you stick to the facts, this is what ends up happening. They end up not conceding out of good faith. They end up conceding because when you ask them a logical question like, don't you think if there's a fucking bail fund, more people will show up? They say yes. Show us the equivalent on the right. They couldn't. All Vince could come up with is after J6. A fund was opened up for legal assistance. That's not a bail fund. These people are the worst, fucking most atrocious liars I've ever heard in my life. So thing is like, ultimately, point for point, that's why we end up taking the W. So with that, I appreciate it, guys. You know, that's the end of that. But it'll be the last time for us, Soy, unless you ever want to have an actual serious debate. But
don't
I
know if it's
just
All right.
possible,
like
but I
the
appreciate it.
whole idea of like I'm just gonna come on and then when you get frustrated, you just troll for fucking 40 minutes. I just don't have any
Hey,
time
you
for it
started
anymore.
with the dick sucking lips, man. I don't know what you're
Nah,
gonna say.
nah. But anyway, go ahead.
Thank you everyone for joining. Big shout out to Andrew and Soy. You guys have literally infinite times more the audience than I do, so I really appreciate you coming and helping out and having fun on the channel.
Well,
As
never
far
forget,
as-
you might be obscure right now, but in 3 years, you might be fucking the biggest thing who's ever existed. You never can tell
Yeah.
how these things turn out. I'm always
If-
happy to assist people in their channel growth. I've always been really good about that. I don't care if they're right or left. If they have legitimate debates, I'm always happy to assist with that.
Yeah, man, I really do appreciate you guys coming out. And big shout out to the audience. We have 150 live viewers. That's almost the size of my channel. That is unbelievable. So everyone in the live section, thanks for coming out.
Are
Make
you on
sure
YouTube?
like and
We
sub?
can raid into you.
Sorry.
Are you on? If you're on YouTube, we can raid into you too.
Oh yeah, I'm on YouTube right now. Corbin Sales. You can find me online at YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and the like. Thank you everyone for my amazing guests tonight. Shout out to John and Vince as well. You guys all did fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, thanks
Thank
for
you,
coming on.
Atron.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome.
Later, guys.
What a slog.